Anyway, Build-A-Bear just launched an After Dark series of horny teddy bears.
Hello, and welcome to episode 185 of Flix in the Six, coming at you virtually from the sushi bar. This is the way. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Costanzo. With me, forever and always, the man, the myth, the rancor, Alessandro Bielsi. Say hello, Al.
Short story long?
Nice. On this week's episode, that really bothered me. Like, it broke. Like, every once in a while, there's a line in a movie that breaks immersion because you can no longer focus on anything else except for what we just said, and you try to reconstruct its meaning.
Well, I kind of liked it because they did it 2 or 3 times, and the first time I heard it, I was like, did he get that backwards? And they did it again. It's like, okay, yeah, he got it backwards. He's doing it intentionally. Fantastic.
He got it backwards. He's being cute. Okay, understood. Oh, man. On this week's episode, we have Oscar Watch. We have Watching Oscar. We are Build-A-Bear. And other news and nuggets, all before diving into a flick of the week. Nobody, which I keep typing Mr. Nobody and getting the wrong results.
Also, different movie that we've done on this podcast already.
Right. I when I went to watch it the first time, I used the Roku's audio search thing, and I was like, Mr. Nobody. Nope. Not even, but it's a fairly new movie, right? You would think that there were multiple results that popped up. Obviously, the first one being the actual movie, Mr. Nobody. Other movies with the name Nobody in it, but nothing for just Nobody came up. And I was like, I know I'm wrong because I searched the wrong name of the movie, but I'm like 60% in the wrong.
It's funny because I constantly have been railing against in recent times when I search something on a streaming service that I think is going to be on there, and it turns out not to be. But they start giving me hits that have, let's say I searched the movie Nobody on Netflix, right?
Right.
Anything that has the Nobody in the title should be willing to come up, even if Nobody's not on there. And then, after all of the things that have Nobody in the title are exhausted, below that, they usually will be, did you mean, or in the same genre as, because they know what you're looking for, but you don't have it. Fine.
Right. There's a TV movie database that they can look at. Yeah.
But there's so many times where I search I notice this most in streaming services, but it's not the only place I've noticed it, where I'll search a thing and the thing doesn't exist within their library, but so many other things come up, and it's like, I'll type the whole word Nobody, and there'll be something in the title that just has the word no in it. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
If I started with just no, and you want to show me that, and I was on the way towards Nobody, fine. But once we've gotten to the point where I've added additional characters, any other text string,
relevant text.
Yeah, any other text string that has anything less than Nobody in it should be excluded from this list.
I wouldn't say necessarily excluded, but at least pushed to the bottom.
Yeah, not in the top 5 hits.
No, absolutely not. It's really infuriating. As somebody who has to write things that sort data, I would never do this.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Even in my limited programming history, even I know that's wildly wrong. But it's also, I've never written. The stuff I've ever worked on was always stuff that was a very specific function, the most basic version of that function, right?
Sure.
I've never written an algorithm that was for a service that's constantly trying to sell itself, even when you've already paid for it, right?
Yeah.
Because they want to keep you. So it's oh, we don't have the thing you want, but here's all the things with any letter that you've ever existed. We'll just give them to you. Watch it. It's good. And it's
these are all the movies that start with N. These are all the movies that start with O.
And it's okay, those things all might be great, but it's just exactly not the thing I'm looking for.
You're just your search is bad. It's bad.
Yes. And I know what they're doing. I know it's because, please don't leave us. Please don't go to the other service. But it's I'm paying for both of you.
Yeah.
I'll come back to find the other thing when it's...
There's plenty of room for both of you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's too much room for all of you. We are living in the apocalypse that I predicted 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Where we are now all paying for too many services. And
yeah, it's getting,
we're paying for more than we were when we were paying for cable.
I don't think I'm there yet, but that's because I'm doing what every other American is doing and not paying for all of them. Somebody gets one, somebody gets the other, you share them.
Sure, yeah.
And honestly, like I feel no guilt.
No, but it's still like the only guilt I feel is like I asked you for a login the other day. Like
Sure.
I don't feel good about that.
No, that yeah, and I don't like asking either. But at the same time, it's like
I don't feel any guilt towards the company. I feel like guilt unless like it's unless you go into an agreement with you and me said, hey, one of us is going to pay for X and the other one's going to pay for Y and we're going to share.
Sure.
Like, you know what I mean? Like there would be zero guilt associated with that, or whatever. But like, I feel bad, but it's just, I'm not going to pay for that fucking service.
No,
and like,
that's totally fair. And it is a little, it's outlandish. Like the amount, like it's getting to the point where it's like one of the things that I originally thought was like, I had considered a while back before even getting any of the streaming services for myself that I don't just put TV on. I'm a little bit more calculated in what I'm watching. Like I sit down to put something specific on. So I was thinking about potentially just buying episodes of the thing I want to watch directly. Certain
but even the price on
make that possible.
Even the price on that's kind of high.
It is. I've since backed down from that.
Well, because like even like you said, oh, I don't just sit down to I sit down to watch something. Yeah, most of the time, but you yourself have said to me, oh, I'm sitting down for work and I put on Parks and Rec in the background.
Yeah.
But you're not watching it.
No, there's noise. Yeah, but like I would just stick with then also there's the music services that I pay for too. So this is another subscription. It is.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you when you consider the price hikes that have happened multiple times in the last few years, and obviously we knew something like that's going to happen with the pandemic, but this has been going on since before that. If you take HBO, Hulu, and let's call it the Disney bundle, right? Because the best deal is to get the Hulu, Disney, ESPN bundle, right? Mm-hmm. If you take that bundle plus Netflix plus HBO, that's as much as a basic cable package.
Sure.
Or pretty damn close to it. And now if you add on top of that Paramount or Peacock or Apple or whatever, you're now getting to the point where you're paying almost just as much.
Well, but like, where's the limit, right? Like, I feel like $15 is too much for a streaming service.
Netflix just went to $15.
And and I think that's too much. And HBO is the same because they also offer the half price option where there's ads, but that's, let's be honest, not an option.
Yeah. And to be fair, I still have DirecTV, or my parents still have DirecTV, and we have an HBO login for free that goes along with it.
Sure. What do you get Max with that, or do you get?
Yes.
Okay, they've updated that.
No, from the beginning, HBO Max. If you had HBO package with, at least with DirecTV,
didn't they have like a weird thing though at one point where like if you had HBO the channel, you got like HBO Now.
So what happened was people who didn't have cable could buy HBO Now, and they eliminated that, supplanted it with HBO Max, and raised the subscription price slightly from what it had been.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, and then at the end, so like I don't know, $15 is way too much. Then Apple is like $6 or $5.
I think it was $5, but I don't know what the latest price hike was. I don't have it, so I'm not sure.
Which is good. Like I'm okay with $5. And then
also, Disney, by the way, I forgot that like you're talking also about Amazon, which I understand you're getting the streaming plus other stuff too, like the whole delivery thing, which already I railed against a couple weeks ago for the absurdity of that whole thing. By the way, the coffee's been great from the French press, so that's nice.
Great. Okay.
But aside from that, I just got an email recently. Didn't Amazon's price just go up too?
Yeah, they're going up too, and
because that had been $100 for years, and then it bumped to like $109, and it was like $120 now or something like that, $125
or more. It might be more.
So, aggregate that, and that's $10 a month. So there you go. Yeah. You have Amazon, Netflix, HBO, and the Disney bundle, and you're paying as much as you would have for a basic cable package.
Sure. I mean, at the end, I am. There are no ads, though.
Sure, but also nothing live, or very few live things.
But there's nothing live. I mean, live TV is on broadcast that you can get for free anyway.
What do you mean?
Like, I don't know, like the standard channels you can get broadcast television.
Can
live.
you still get that now? Because I know
I have it. I have an antenna hooked up, and if I want to watch something,
I forgot about your antenna.
But also
the antenna adventures.
I don't even need. You know what's funny? After all that, like I'm pretty sure it was like the day after, like it was plugged in and working. Plex was like, "You can watch live TV now if you click this button." I was like, "Son of a bitch.
Okay, so that's still only like the most basic like 5 channels though, right?
I mean, I think it's like all HGTV like broadcast channels. Like,
I don't think it's all broadcast. I thought it was like CBS, ABC, Fox.
no, there's a good amount. There's a lot of channels.
I'm sure there might be a handful more. My point is, there is I know you probably always forget this slightly. I know I'm going to say slightly because I know that you've made some accommodations for Kim, but sports is the only thing that matters live now. And it's a huge swath of it's the only thing that there's any money in for like live broadcast rights now at this point. And that money is getting insane. Amazon has usurped, I guess it was Fox, for the Thursday night football package. That package alone, 1 game a week, 17 games I think it is total out of 18 weeks of football. That is like right there, like $1 billion.
My goodness.
For the next like 5 years or something like that.
Yikes. For
1 game out of 260 or whatever it is, 230 something games. I forget what whatever 17 times 32 is. Sorry, whatever 17 times 16 is. Doesn't matter. Regardless.
272.
Yes, that's the number we're looking for. Because you look at like the major networks, like CBS and Fox, have the majority of the NFL package on Sundays. Then you have NBC that has 1 game a week, plus a couple extra. There's playoffs as well. They have the Sunday night primetime game, which ostensibly is supposed to be the best game of the week. And then ESPN has the Monday night game, and Amazon now, which used to be Fox, it had been NBC. They've traded that around, or CBS, I forget. They've traded that around and stuff. But Amazon came in and said, no, this is ours from now on. We have the Thursday night game. That's just them establishing a beachhead to continue on with. Because DirecTV had the exclusive rights on the Sunday ticket package for like 10 years now. And the asking price from the NFL got so high. That's not going to be with DirecTV after this year. I've had it the last 2 years through my DirecTV subscription. The only way you could get the Sunday ticket is you can watch all the games. There's no blackouts. The local game would be on the local channel, but that's obviously not any additional. If you put up basic CBS, your markets game is going to be on there. All games that isn't that, you can access and watch live, which if you don't pay for that, you can't watch. You get 1 or 2 games, if you're lucky, at any given time slot on Sunday at 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock. That is coming up, and Amazon is probably going to be the one that buys it. It's basically become a bidding war between Amazon, Google, and Apple, I think, for the rights to the Sunday night package. That package is going to go for an obscene amount of money.
Wow. That whole thing is crazy. Yeah, like I'm so far removed from that stuff.
I know, which is why I bring it up. And I know it's a blind spot for you. I know you're like aware of it, and whenever I say it, I can see the recognition in your head. Like, yep, no, I kind of forgot. And it's like, I know you're like aware, but like, that's the only thing that anyone cares about.
I'm just grateful that I don't care about it.
Sure. My point is, if you don't watch sports, you can find a way judiciously with the streaming services to get as much value, if not more, than you would from having a basic cable package.
Sure.
You could. If you watch sports, because that's only talking about, like, football is the most national sport. When you talk about more regional sports like baseball, hockey, basketball, where all of those games, they have national packages, right?
Yeah.
Hockey just was taken over by ESPN and TNT. They split it. It had been NBC for a long time. Basketball is ESPN and TNT. Baseball is ESPN and Fox. Those have a certain amount of national games per week. It's 1 to 2 to 3 national games per week. But baseball season for each team is 162 games. Those are all on regional networks.
Sure.
Hockey and basketball, 82 games. Those are all on regional games. Like if you live in New York, like we live in the tri-state area, I'm in New York, you're in New Jersey, to watch the Islanders or the Devils or the Rangers or the Knicks or the Nets, you have to have MSG. That is not part of a basic cable subscription. Or if you do, it's one. You get whichever one's on the major MSG network. But there's 5. Sure. I just mentioned 5 teams. Those 5 teams, they have 5 offshoots of MSG. Like I have all of those on DirecTV. But you're not getting that for the basic cable package. My goodness.
This whole thing's a mess.
It is. And this is what I said a couple of years ago. It's like all of these things are racing to get their own streaming service, and you're going to pay for each of those streaming services, and it's going to supplant, I guess. But then, like, you have to, like, in some of them, you have to, I think, pay for like a secondary tier to get live stuff. Like Hulu, you can get basic Hulu, or you can get Hulu with live TV.
Yeah.
So now you're back to where you started anyway.
Sure. Well, with the ones that I don't fully remember, so like if you have cable, like some sort of, I don't know, some premium cable, like,
yes, Like mine,
Verizon
take me.
or-
I have
yeah.
if either the top or the second highest DirecTV package. I forget which one.
Do you get like? Are you able to log into Paramount Plus because you pay for cable?
No, if I was the case, I
No.
wouldn't have asked you the other day.
Oh, right, obviously. And then there's like, and what's it called? Peacock, same thing, right? It's its own.
Yeah, no, I don't get
That's
that.
so funny.
This
is there a Paramount like on demand?
Yes,
but it doesn't have all the stuff. Obviously,
correct. It doesn't have the Paramount Plus exclusives. Everything else, anything that airs on Paramount, like live broadcast,
yeah,
I can get online. But anything that's Paramount Plus exclusive, it's like this. The reason I asked you for the Paramount Plus login the other day was my parents watch Yellowstone.
Yep.
They want to watch 1883, which is Paramount Plus exclusive. It's a spin-off of Yellowstone.
Right.
They put the first episode on broadcast TV to give you the first taste of heroin and then get you to come buy the Paramount Plus.
I think it's on. This whole thing needs to be rectified. I feel like it's gonna. All of these things are gonna end up moving to Plex for me, and just out of principle, again, like it's like okay, this is a change. I appreciate the fact that there's been a change. It's not right still.
Yeah, the way that it was done was so stupid because 5 years we've already seen the beginnings of it. Disney already said, "Oh wow, yeah, no one's gonna pay for a big subscription for ESPN Plus and a big subscription for Disney Plus and a big subscription for Hulu. So we're gonna offer you each of those things at a price and then a bundle that's we're just going to get back to bundling again. 10 years from now, you're going to go to like Paramount or Warner or Disney and get a bundle with a whole bunch of these things. It was such it's just like a, like a self, like pleasuring like circle. It's a masturbatory process, right? Where it's like we're gonna go through this whole thing of like, oh god, we're gonna give you all the freedom. No, you don't want the freedom. You want all the things in one place. Here we come. Come on back. We're gonna give you all the same things. We're gonna pat ourselves on the back. We're gonna have our earnings call, and everyone's gonna be happy again. It's like, how is no one else seeing? I'm not that smart. I'm not, and I'm not that plugged in or like have any inside information. Even I could read the tea leaves on this. Come on.
I think it's time to revert to downloading TV shows and buying movies like physically.
And I'm not saying that like the dinosaur set top box cable package was the way to go, but it's inevitable that we're going to get back to some form of that. Even if the technology changes, we're going to get back to some form of that again. I said all along, the first like cable company or DirecTV or whatever that came up with, we're just going to give it to you fully a la carte. And we're going to make it as easy and technologically sound as possible. That's going to be the one that wins because that's what everyone wants, right? If you want,
I want this channel, this channel, this channel.
If you want 35 channels and I want 80 channels and someone else wants 4 channels, just give us a rate, right? If you get 1 to 15 channels, you pay $1 a channel, and if you want 15 to 30 channels, you pay 90 cents a channel, and so on and so forth, whatever. And you can switch it on and off, and you don't have to have a fucking tech come and turn a switch off on your box.
Monthly changes you can make. Once
a month. App. Yeah, through the app, once a month. You can only make your change on the first of the month or whatever, something like that. Like, it's going to be annoying. That's the way to go. Like, what are we doing with this runaround thing? Like,
it's gonna end up having. It's like, oh, that's a good idea, and then some other company's gonna come along. We're actually gonna go back to like cell phone minutes.
No, I mean,
and you're gonna get charged for the time that you're watching.
I'm gonna kill someone over that. No, we're gonna go back to the bundle thing first, and then somehow we're gonna end up with the box on the thing that reads my brain, a la Jim Carrey's Batman Forever.
Yeah,
that's a tip off to your last week's fun and games.
I appreciate it. Al,
what are we drinking?
We've rambled enough about the television garbage. I'm really interested. I smelled the beer mid-conversation, and it smells really good. So why don't you let the listeners know?
This is 20 minutes of rambling. Is this the longest we've gotten before?
I think so.
it's right up there, right?
This is 20 minutes of rambling. Should be the cold open.
Clip it.
Yeah.
Some cold opens do that. They clip something from.
I've done it.
Yeah. Well, that's true. That's right. Well, most of them have been us talking before we officially start the recording. But yes, at least one of them, I don't remember which one, but I know for a fact, you chose one of them. We're drinking something from my journey last summer. We took a little family vacation out into the desert, hit some Vegas, hit some Grand Canyon, and this is from
peyote.
No, this is from the Grand Canyon. This is from the Grand Canyon Brewing Company. It's handcrafted, just so you know. This is a prickly pear wheat ale. It's got prickly pears on the front. If we want to talk can art,
Sure.
they're pretty delightful renderings. Jesus Christ, renderings of prickly pears.
It's got a what's it called? Like, do you remember Invader Zim? It's got like that.
I didn't
that
really
vibe.
watch the show, but yeah, I remember, and the art style is kind of similar to that. You're right.
Yeah. The coloration.
Up top, we have some fun words to live by. Live curiously, live adventurously.
Dig it.
A clear, refreshing American wheat ale enhanced with the subtle sweetness of all-natural prickly pear flavor. Native to our beloved home state, the prickly pear imparts a delicate sweetness to our award-winning wheat ale to create a crisp and flavorful brew made to enjoy among the cactus-adorned landscapes of Arizona. 12 fluid ounces, 4.5% alcohol by volume, 18 IBUs.
Veteran-owned business. That's cool.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I've never seen that badge before.
I have because of other products, but
Nice.
not a lot of times, and I wouldn't have recognized it on its own, but I have seen, if not that specific badge, then the words at least memorialized somewhere.
Al, I have another beer can here that has a slice in it.
So does mine, actually.
What's that about? I'm telling you, it's definitely like a case, like, and a knife. What's it called? A box cutter, like, was dragged across.
Yeah, this was
right?
definitely had
like,
to have been, because this was from I think a 6-pack.
But like so close, you could easily just destroy the can and beer would go everywhere. Did I ever tell you about the time my dad was showing me how to throw a Ninja Star?
No, where did you find a Ninja Star?
I don't know. He probably bought one in the city back in the day. But he always had it on, like, in the workshop. On, like, there was like one of the rungs that was coming off the pegboard had like table saw blades on it, and then in the middle of the table saw blades was a single Ninja Star. What's the word for that? Shuriken? Or is that two different things?
Shuriken?
Yeah. Shuriken?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, he was like, he's like, do you want to throw it? And I was like, yes, I want to throw it. So he set up some
There's a
boxes.
bear shit in the woods.
Yeah, exactly. So
and also throw Ninja Stars.
like on top of a chair, like in the corner against the cement wall. And we had a lot of family parties at our house at that time. So we always had Budweiser handy for pop-up.
Yes.
And he used that box of Budweiser to hold up the other box. And it went right through the first box, and beer went everywhere.
I can imagine.
But it felt so dangerous.
Because it was dangerous. Have you seen South Park?
I definitely had like his work goggles on when I threw it.
That's probably for the best. Also,
Yeah.
I forgot when I asked if you'd seen South Park that you're not a big South Park fan.
And not I don't dislike it, right? I just never. It was just not a thing that I ever
really
watched.
There was a classic episode from like 15 years ago where there was some sort of like carnival or state fair or something there, and the kids, you know how they have like a weapons tent always in one of those fairs?
Of course.
The kids buy a bunch of like ninja weapons, and then half of the episode becomes like an anime. Anytime they break out like the ninja weapons, and like not only does it become like an anime, but each of them has like an avatar that is similar to what they would look like if they were in an anime.
Yeah.
And it kind of culminates with someone accidentally throwing a Ninja Star into Butter's eyeball.
Sure.
And
that tracks.
That's when it becomes real for the kids. Like, just having fun, and he's just like, no, he's just like piteously crying, and people think he's a stray dog.
Oh my god.
He's just like crawling around the streets with a Ninja Star in his eye.
That's gracious. All right, I'm ready to try this one.
Let's do it.
It smells so sweet. Cheers.
Oh, it's nice simultaneous cheers. Oh, it smells delightful.
Oh yeah.
2 for 2, Anthony. 2 for 2. So saying before we started recording, I've had one other beer with prickly pear. It was a seasonal beer from was it what's the name of the fucking, it's Shiner, but I forget what the name of the brewery is. You know, like Shiner Bock, like
yeah.
I forget what the name of the brewery is.
I
just can't remember what it is. It's some German sounding name. But they had like a Shiner like spring beer. It was like a prickly pear or something or other, and that was a really, really good beer. I really enjoyed that one. This is the only other beer I've had prickly pear, and I've been enjoying this so far. It's my 2 sips. This is a delightful light spring type of beer. We're a little early on that, but it's okay.
Yeah, but it's, I mean, still, today was warm, so I guess that helps.
It's true.
But
as far as February,
I'm really digging it. Very sweet on the nose. It definitely it's there with a little bit of extra tartness in it, which I really like. It's like not. I feel like it could almost pass as a sour from how tart it is, but I like it.
Yeah, no, this is good. It's funny. Yeah, when I poured it, I could smell it, and you're right. When it was sitting here, occasionally I would just get like a waft of it coming across my nose.
I'm picturing me as like a cartoon, but floating like towards it with the scent waves.
I know it's been in a million cartoons, but I always think of Family Guy where they did it with the pie when the pie rapes Peter and Quagmire.
Sure.
But yeah, that's always been a classic standby. Yeah, I'm just gonna power through that. But
where are we at Thuckles was?
I think this is easily a 3 Thuckle.
Trace Thuckles?
Yes. Trace Thuckles, yes.
I agree. I'm with you. I'm all about it.
I will say prickly pear smells almost sickly sweet. When you taste it, you're right. It's got a good. There's always that matching tartness to go with the sweet, where it's in a good balance, where it doesn't feel like it's run away towards the sickly sweet.
Yeah. I really like this. I could drink a lot more than 12 ounces of this.
I'm sorry it didn't come in pints in this case. So we're gonna have several offerings from Grand Canyon. We're gonna try and spread them out over the course of the next couple of months. So
sure. What are you gonna do? I think it's time for some news and nuggets.
Let's do it.
I like that the beer section was significantly shorter than the rambling portion.
You didn't want 20 minutes of in-depth breakdown of how prickly this pear is.
How prickly! Oh man, there's something about a prickly pear in the Bare Necessity song, right?
Yes.
Prickly. He pricked the wrong paw. Next time, beware. I don't know what the actual words are. I'm close.
You're right. There is a follow-up line, but I always remember it's something, and a prickly pear, or a prickly pear. I forget. It's definitely the end of a line, and then the next line starts with a follow-up to the prickly pear thing before it continues on. You're absolutely right about that.
Now, when you pick a pawpaw or a prickly pear.
There we go.
And you pick a raw paw. Well, next time, beware.
Okay. I just remembered that.
Don't pick the prickly pear by the paw. When you pick a pear, try to use the claw.
It's so weird because it's been a really long time since I've seen that movie. I saw it a million times as a kid, but it's been a really long time since I've seen it.
But you don't need to use the claw when you pick a pear of the big paw. Have I given you a clue?
But I always remember
the necessities of life
will come to you. I always remember the cadence of that line being, or a prickly pear. Yes. I couldn't remember if it was and or, but I remember that being the cadence of the sentence.
I require a dramatic reading of the Bare Necessities.
Like in a Shakespearean...
Yeah.
All right, let's call up Kenneth Branagh, see if he'll do it for us.
Oh, my goodness.
Wait, do you think Kenneth... Wait, no, hang on a second. Do you think Kenneth Branagh's on Cameo? Because we could absolutely get that from him out of like a cameo. It'd be fantastic.
I hope so.
Research for us before next week's episode.
Oh man, that's just forever the intro.
I mean, you could do worse for an intro.
I feel like we probably get shut down at some point, right? Because they are the
no, we paid for
song, but I don't know how this works.
We paid for it.
All right. Just claim ignorance. Okay. I didn't know I couldn't do that.
What news do you want first? Do you want?
I want. So I'm excited to look at the list of Oscars.
Do you want an Oscar sandwich? We can do an Oscar. I want an Oscar other sandwich. And then other news, and then Oscars.
Yeah. So why don't we do the actual Oscars last?
Okay. So you want to do Oscar Isaac first?
Don't we all?
That's now twice because you don't know what you're walking into here. Because earlier you were saying take a look at Oscar, and now you're saying don't we all want to do Oscar Isaac? So
sure.
I'm going to read you a headline. This is on IndieWire. This was from about a week ago. Sorry. On IndieWire, headline: Oscar Isaac put his quote cocksock unquote in Denis Villeneuve's pocket on Dune set.
What? I'm gonna need more.
And I have more to provide for you.
Subtitle, and he liked it.
There was no subtitle. And an R-rated present, don't mention it.
No. We're out. I think you're going to need to find a different article about this.
Nope, too late. We're already in it. Oscar Isaac confessed to surprising Dune director Denis Villeneuve by placing his, quote, cocksock, unquote, covering in Villeneuve's pocket. At one point, when Denis wasn't looking, I may have left my cocksock in his pocket, just so he had a little bit of me next to him when I left, Isaac said on Entertainment Weekly's Awardist podcast. Just a little musty handkerchief.
What? Okay, I'm not familiar with this term.
It's a sock he put on his cock.
Okay.
So you're aware of like any like nude scene that's not in porn, in which you don't see someone's full frontal nudity, they typically are provided a sock.
Gotcha. No, I wasn't aware of this.
You're not aware of this?
No, I didn't know about this.
Okay, I'm going to have to find eventually for you a story involving Terry Bradshaw talking about his nude scene from Failure to Launch on the Dan Le Batard show, in which he talks about the process by which they presented him his options for socks.
Okay.
Terry Bradshaw, for those who don't know, was the 4-time Super Bowl winning quarterback of the Steelers in the 1970s. He's like 80 years old. And at the time of Failure to Launch was in his mid to late 60s, I think. So,
okay.
Anyway. The onset prank was used to bring some levity after the tense scene in which Isaac's character, Duke Atreides, is tortured by Nemesis Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, played by Stellan Skarsgård. Everything about it was just so scary, Isaac said. He's been stripped of his clothing. There was some thought, I think, originally like, he doesn't have to be naked. And I was like, no, he should be naked, man. It's like Christ on the cross kind of moment. Isaac continued. So we came up with a few different ideas of what his posture would be. That's where we came up with the great idea of seeing the bull's head, this motif that's never been talked about really or explained. It's just been traveling along with him as his omen, and that just getting finally to have a chance to play with Stellan Skarsgård as the bear, and that was just incredible. Denis just found a way to distill it to its essence. It's a really poetic film, and I think weirdly enough, for as well as it is, it just feels like there's something really personal about it. It's hard to explain, but I think it's less about communicating an idea. It's his emotional expression of what you see on there. It just feels like someone's vision. It really does. That's a total word salad. I'm sorry, that's my own editorial. And what could be more personal than an intimate covering? According to Isaac, not much else.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, so...
how long before he noticed?
I hope it was a while. I hope it was long enough that he truly didn't know where the sock came from. Because if it's within, like, the first 10 minutes of him putting it there, like, he's going to realize what it is, right? But if it's, like, 4 hours later, he's going to, like... How did I get a sock? Did my pants have a sock stuck in it from the dryer?
Sure.
Oh, no, this is Oscar's.
Wait a minute, I know that sock.
This is Oscar's cock sock.
Oh, my God. That's pretty great. All right, I love a good onset prank.
Yes.
Nice. So, what's going on with the Build-A-Bear?
I'm glad that you picked that one next, because Build-A-Bear just launched an After Dark series of horny teddy bears.
No. What? Where do you find these stories?
Twitter is a wonderful and terrible place.
The Twitter app is basically just so that I can open links efficiently when you send them to me at this point. I don't actually go on it.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I very rarely tweet or even retweet anything.
Sure.
But I use it as one of the tools in my news gathering for enjoyment, for the show, for, like I said, the reason I only ever got on Twitter to begin with is just to follow sports news. It's an incredibly powerful tool for me aggregating all of the sports news that I wish to follow.
Sure.
And with the expansion of this show, movie and video game and TV news as well.
No.
It's basically like web slice gallery type thing isn't really a thing anymore. It was a great idea that was never really executed super great, or at least like publicized in a way that it should have been. But like this is essentially that, right? Like I choose all of the things I want and it's just pushed to my phone in a way that is easy to scroll through in a chronological fashion, because I refuse to use the version of Twitter that Twitter wants me to use. I only use Twitter chronologically.
What do they want you to use?
So there's the main version of Twitter where it's whatever is the quote unquote like trending topic gets pushed more to your attention, but it shows up out of order, more or less. Like, it's kind of within, like, snapshots of a period of time throughout the day. But, like, you might get a tweet that's from, like, 4 hours ago, and then a tweet that's from, like, 6 hours ago, and then a tweet that's from, like, 3 hours ago, all on the same subject.
I feel like an old man. Al, what's a Twitter?
To me, I use it as it first started. It's a chronological feed of the things I'm interested in.
Yeah.
If I wanted something from other periods of time, there's a search function within Twitter. I'll go follow that. There's a trending topics function within Twitter. I'll go to that if I want to see what's trending. I check out that periodically. I want the people and sites and whatever that I'm following to be presented to me in a chronological fashion so I can peruse them at my own leisure. That's the point of Twitter, or at least that was the initial, like, intended, like, point of Twitter. I understand that it's evolved beyond that, but to me, its most powerful tool is to be able to do the thing that you actually want it to do, which is show you the tweets from the people you're following.
Fair enough.
Anyway, Build-A-Bear just launched an After Dark series of horny teddy bears. Subtitle, I have no idea how to feel about this.
Oh, man. That statement on its own is just...
I know, that's why I reiterated it. This was on CNET. This is from about a week ago. Quote, "Who said stuffed animals were just for kids?" Unquote. Asks the Build-A-Bear worksite. Quote, "Why should they get to have all the fun?"
Oh my god.
By the way, this is all headed with... actually, hang on a second.
Nice.
I did a quick screenshot of my screen, and I'm going to send that over to you to enjoy while I'm reading this. So you can see the image on the header image on this article, and I will describe it for the audience. It's a lion Build-A-Bear that is dressed in satin robes.
Oh, fantastic.
And it's luxuriously and seductively leaning to its side with champagne and roses around it. It's pretty fantastic.
It does kind of look like it's mid-break dance.
It also looks like that if it wasn't in sexy robes. Welcome to Build-A-Bear After Dark, a new series of teddy bears designed specifically for adults. A concept I'm currently struggling to resolve with my lizard brain. Are these bears supposed to be, ellipses, horny? See above, : a Chad teddy bear with a lion's mane and a silk robe, lying on a shag carpet with a single rose and 2 glasses of wine. It's fairly clear what this teddy bear's intentions are.
Oh my god.
The Build-A-Bear After Dark concept was announced on its Facebook page earlier this week. It's clearly a Valentine's Day related play. Quote, "Wink wink," quote, read the post. "Our gift shop is full of gifts for adults too. Shop Build-A-Bear After Dark for unique gift ideas that are sure to get you hugged." What?
There's one it's the Build-A-Bear. It's the bear in heart boxers with a red cape, devil horns, and a pitchfork.
So you've been looking this up while I've been reading.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Big time.
There's also was like lower on the article below where I screenshotted for you. There was a another, not a horny After Dark type of one, but an adult themed Build-A-Bear that is
the rose over roses one.
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you could see that on the one I sent you, or if that's something you found while on your searching here.
There's one that says, "I like the crepe out of you."
That's a terrible sentence.
And it's
a decent pun, but a terrible sentence.
Yeah.
Thankfully, question mark, the actual bears themselves aren't too explicit, but I'm not sure whether it would have been better for the Build-A-Bear team to go all in on the concept. Most of the gifts...
You don't know what's under that bear's boxers.
Well, that's the point, is that
Cocksock?
I somewhat the Build-A-Bear After Dark horny lion to come with an optional prop of the cocksock. Most of the gifts are quite PG and, dare I say, chuggy. The audience is clearly the type of person who posts wine drinking memes on Facebook. I mean that in the best possible sense. The reaction on Build-A-Bear's Facebook page has been mixed. Some aren't sure the Build-A-Bear brand can withstand the pressure that a horny lion bear can exert. Others seem to love it. You can check out everything Build-A-Bear Dark has to offer here.
Did you say the name of the lion?
No.
It's Dr. Love Lion.
Oh, no, that didn't say that here.
There's a picture of him pouring champagne into a champagne glass.
So they did a photo shoot for this horny lion bear. Because there's more than one picture, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Of this specific line and this specific getup with this specific champagne. No, that didn't say anything about the name of this specific character, although the subtitle to the picture I sent you was, "Is this Build-A-Bear trying to seduce me?"
Oh my god! There's definitely like I don't know if you watch Last Week Tonight, but I feel like this is going to show up in that series because he does things like this all the time, where he'll be like, "That bear can get it," and like he'll go back to that well over and over again throughout the episode.
Now, can he do it in the Zazu voice, or?
I hope so. I sure hope so. This is a treat, Al. Thanks for this.
Every once in a while, the internet provides good content.
That's true. I recap on Mission Impossible lines I've got for you.
Okay.
I was going to move the car seat base from my car into Kim's car, and her key can be in one of three likely places. So rather than start looking, I just ask her at this point, like, where it is. And I asked her, "Where's your key? I need to move it." And she said, "My left jacket pocket."
Wait, she retained the reference? That was last week, right? Was that last week or 2 weeks ago?
It was like 3 weeks ago.
Well, no, I meant what we talked about on the show.
Yeah, it was like, maybe that was 2 weeks ago, I think.
Okay.
I might have brought it up again last week, but yeah, I was, just retained that one bit of information with the cadence that is relevant. And I was like, well done. Well done.
Your marriage is sure to succeed.
Yeah. For sure. I just thought you would like that. I also, do you have any other news and nuggets before we get into the Oscars?
No, the last of my news is Oscars.
All right, then I have, there's one more nugget for you. It is I think this is like, being Diane Kruger is becoming a little bit more of a theme. It's like, there's the very basic one, which is you hear something that you feel like you've never heard before, and then you hear it all over the place, right? That's like the real version of it. But then there's things that, which I think still count, is when they come back into play after not having thought about them for a while, and now you're hearing about them everywhere.
We kind of talked about that recently, and I forget which episode.
It was one of the ones that I had, like, so.
Well, I said it too, where I was like, it's not like the first time I thought of it, but it's something I haven't really thought about, and like just weirdly, it came up like twice within a short period of time. So
before, like, I guess it was like 6 weeks ago at this point when we were going to do the first, when we were discussing after a show that we had that we were going to start doing the Book of Boba Fett post credits, and we were coming up with a name for it, which you eventually came up with, Boba's Feature Fett,
the Boba's Feature Fett, yes.
Which I love. But at one point I had surfaced Boba Tea with Boba.
Yes.
And I haven't stopped thinking about that tea in a while, and sure enough, this place opened up near me that is dumplings and boba tea. And I was like, cool. Like that's great. I would like that. Earlier today I took a lunch break and I was like, you know what? I'm kind of in the mood to get one of those. So I went to pick one up. I grab it, I get back to my car, I'm listening to Game Scoop in my car. Okay. I was like midway through the episode when I got there, grabbed the drink, got in the car, had a few sips, started driving home. One of the members of Game Scoop says to the other members of Game Scoop, "Hey, I thought we were going to get Boba Tea and watch Boba Fett." I was like, this is too much. This is everything all at once. I've been Krugered. It's a double Kruger.
Krugerception?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a Nightmare on Elm Street 2 over here. Anyway, I think it's time for Oscars. Oscar season is here.
I've seen only the slightest bit of the nominations. I saw, I think, the best picture and maybe one or two other things. So,
gotcha. Well, obviously, I've got up here the Oscars.org. So I'm going to go top down from category, and you stop me when you want to hear who's in what.
Well, let's just pick the major categories. Let's jump around.
Actor in a leading role is the number one on the list.
Yeah, that's what I have here too.
So we have Javier Bardem in Being the Ricardos, which I actually really want to see that, so that works out well. Benedict Cumberbatch in The Power of the Dog, which I had never heard. I haven't heard a single thing about that movie.
I almost watched it a few weeks ago.
I was going to say, but now it seems like maybe a front runner.
Oh yeah, no, that all along has been because, well, I mean, for one thing, it's got multiple like major nominations between picture, director, actor, supporting actor.
Oh, okay. We got Andrew Garfield and Tick Tick Boom, which is the only one so far on this list that I've seen. Will Smith and King Richard. What is that one about again?
That's about the father of the Williams sisters.
Okay, that's what I thought. And then we've got Denzel Washington and the Tragedy of Macbeth. And I'm not a big Shakespeare guy, but I saw a trailer for that.
I was saying they all sorts of different internet services have been pushing the shit out of that. It's Denzel Washington, Frances McDormand. It's on Apple, I think.
Yeah, it is.
That's been a promoted ad on Twitter for like a month for me.
I'll have to check that one out. So we have actor in a supporting role.
Yes.
Kieran.
Yeah.
What do you do with that A?
I don't think
we're in umlaut territory now. What is this?
This is not Troeggs. It's Kieran. I'm pretty sure it's Kieran.
What is that? What do you call that one?
It's just an accent mark. I'm sure there's a name for it, but it's an accent mark. It's like Spanish.
But that's it. There's nothing special about it. If that wasn't there, I feel like you'd be pronouncing this name the same way.
I don't know. Kieran. I don't know. It might be. I've never actually heard anyone say his name out loud, but I'm pretty sure it's Kieran.
We'll find out soon enough, I guess. In Belfast.
Yes.
Troy Kotzer?
No idea.
In Coda. Jesse Plemons, The Power of the Dog. Oh man, I can't even look at him because I get creepy Todd vibes. I get creepy game night vibes, and it's hard to look at.
He's a good actor though.
I mean, yeah. J.K. Simmons and Being the Ricardos. Oh, forgot that he was in that.
I found out today when I saw that he was nominated for it, and I was like, I had no idea he was in that movie. I just know the two leads.
Cody Smith-McPhee in The Power of the Dog. Now that's always interesting. I love when there's two actors from the same movie.
I do feel bad because they never win. It's
somebody else. Yeah, because
they cannibalize
like split vote.
Yes,
thing.
they cannibalize each other. It sucks.
Yep.
Cody Smith-McPhee. I forget what, but he was in something as like a child star like 8 years ago.
Can we look him up?
I mean, I'm sure we can. I'll look him up while you continue on reading.
The name sounds like a character from Arrested Development. Yeah, like that. Who they whole name every time. Actress in a leading role. We have Jessica. Wow,
Jessica Chastain.
I was gonna say Jessica Chastain. I was gonna say Chastain when I was doing Jessica.
I'm sorry.
I was moving the C's and the S's all over the place.
Well, while you try and recover.
Yep.
Cody Smith-McPhee was in a handful of things, but the first major role was The Road, where he played Boy. He was Viggo Mortensen's son in that. But the first major role that I was aware of him in, I think, was in Let Me In, which I know was a remake of some like Swedish or German or something movie. It's a vampire movie in which this kid befriends a seemingly similar aged little girl who's actually a vampire. It was a very well regarded movie. I never saw it, but that was the first thing I was aware of him from chronologically. Wait
a minute.
Yes.
I feel like, and now I have to look. I'm sorry, I have to look him up.
I think there was an alternate title for that movie too. I think that was directed by Matt Reeves.
What's his name again?
Yeah, written and directed by Matt Reeves. Cody Smith-McPhee. That was written and directed by Matt Reeves, who has written and directed the upcoming Robert Pattinson Batman movie.
I know this guy's face. Anyway, I'll look him up later. Cool. Actress in a leading role, we have Jessica Chastain in The Eyes of Tammy Faye. I know nothing about that movie.
That just came out on like HBO, I think. That's about Tammy Faye Baker.
We've got Olivia Colman.
Wild that she's nominated again.
In her movie for this year with A Lost Daughter.
Which I've never heard of. I didn't know she was in a movie that was going to be nominated for anything.
Is she a permanent resident on the nominee list? Is that what this is?
I mean, it's great for her that she is. Also, like, isn't she nominated perpetually for Marvelous Miss Maisel too? Is she in that, or is she something else? She was in some television show. Maybe it wasn't that one.
No, it wasn't that.
Was it The Crown? Which one was it?
Was it Downton Abbey? Is she in that?
Or maybe it was Downton Abbey. I know that she was perpetually nominated for like an Emmy for some television show too, and I don't remember which one it was. I don't know why I thought she was. Oh no, what's her name was in Marvelous Miss Maisel, which was nominated from Family Guy.
I'm pretty sure she
when it
was.
does Lois.
She's in both Downton Abbey and The Crown.
Okay. British shows, fantastic.
Yeah. We've got Penelope Cruz in Parallel Mothers.
Never heard of it.
They never touch. We've got Nicole Kidman in.
It's terrible. Terrible joke.
Math. We've got Nicole Kidman in Being the Ricardos. This movie's getting a lot of traction.
Yeah, I've heard kind of mixed things about the movie itself, but I've heard that they're good. Like the actors and actresses are good.
Yeah. We've got Kristen Stewart in Spencer. Now, I find it, as somebody who just watched all of the Twilight movies willingly this past year, I find it hard to believe that she has made her way into a position to be nominated for something.
This is the second time she's been nominated. She was nominated for playing Joan Jett.
I feel like I feel like I need to watch it just to see that she could do it.
She's a fine actress. Did you ever see Adventureland?
She was awful. No. Yes. I did see Adventureland.
She's pretty good.
I didn't think she was that good in that either. I saw her once.
She was a hell of a lot better in that than she was in Twilight.
I saw her once really struggling to cross the street in the city. She looked as confused as she does the entire time she's playing Bella in Twilight.
She was good in the podcast with Dax a couple weeks ago on Armchair Expert.
Maybe I have to give her a modern chance.
But well, she was also in that terrible movie from a couple of years ago, Underwater, which I never saw, but it had to be terrible because in the trailer there's just what's his name, that guy who kind of sort of got canceled, the ginger guy from Silicon Valley and Deadpool.
Oh, TJ Miller.
Yeah, where he screams, "They're underwater." She was the lead in that movie.
My goodness.
That was one of the worst trailers I've ever seen. I laughed the whole time. It was supposed to be for a horror movie.
Jesus. We have actress in a supporting role. Jessie Buckley, the Lost Daughter.
Yes, she was really good in Fargo season 4, playing a serial killer nurse.
Okay.
Who kept, like, Munchausen syndrome by proxying her elderly and incapacitated patients and killing them.
Dear God.
She's an Irish singer, I believe, before she became famous as an actress.
Huh.
There's something else I saw her in as well. I'm struggling to remember what it was now. We
have, while you look that up, we have Ariana DeBose?
Sorry, what?
Dubois?
It's definitely not Dubois. I'm going to assume it's DeBose. Maybe it's Debose. It's probably
Debose. Debose?
I'm going to
in West Side Story. We've got Judi Dench in Belfast. Oh, we have Kirsten Dunst in The Power of the Dog.
Okay, I knew she was
alongside Plemons.
Yes, I know she was nominated. I couldn't remember if it was for that as well or if it was for something else.
And we have Ingenue Ellis.
Yes.
In King Richard.
Yes. What else? I'm scrolling through Jessie Buckley here, and I can't think of what else I recognize her from. I know I'd seen something about her recently that, like, I guess she's been acting for a longer time than I realized, but more of it was, I think, like British stuff. But I think there was something else I'd seen her in, or at least seen reference to.
I hate when that happens, when I'm like, I know this person. I go to the list, and I'm like, I don't know this person.
Oh, you know what? I think I saw something about her having been in Chernobyl, but I didn't actually watch it.
Gotcha. We have cinematography, which I'm going to burn through quickly, specifically because Dune is in there. And I feel like that's some stiff competition already, like to be up against Dune. So the Tragedy of Macbeth is also in there, which from the trailers that I had seen, I was already eyeing it for this category. So that's pretty cool. I still don't know anything about The Power of the Dog, so I'll have to check that out. Nightmare Alley, which I believe you mentioned recently as being a potential candidate for this show.
When I was texting you, I think we can rack up some solid Oscar stuff with some of the stuff that I've seen pop up recently, and that's one of the ones that I've been intrigued by for a while. Cool. I think it just showed up on HBO.
So yeah.
I'd like to see that, and that'd be good for us knocking out some Oscar stuff so we can be prepared for our Flix and a Whisk episode like a month from now.
Yes, yes. We do have a costume design. I'm mentioning specifically because Dune is in there as well, along with West Side Story, Nightmare Alley, Chirano, and Cruella.
Good costumes in Dune.
Yeah, cock socks.
I don't know that's
the award for best.
No, when they win for costume design, can they just have Oscar Isaac go up onto the stage to accept the award in only a cock sock?
No. He gets on the stage and he slowly unrolls it over the Oscar.
Just a terrible tube sock.
Oh my god! If they were to win and somebody like has it,
just like swinging the sock.
Oh my goodness, that would be great. All right, let's go for directing. We've got Belfast, Kenneth Branagh.
The thing that I tried to watch several weeks ago that just failed miserably on Plex.
Drive My Car.
I have heard good things about that on Cinephile, which is a Meadowlark podcast Adnan Virk hosts. He's been talking about this movie a lot recently. It's a Japanese movie that is apparently quite long and kind of confusing for some time, and then like the final 45 minutes of it is supposedly like incredibly riveting. So I'm intrigued. I don't know if I'm intrigued enough to watch, but I was kind of intrigued by it.
We've got Licorice Pizza by Paul Thomas Anderson.
I didn't see it. I've heard people talk about it a lot. It sounds like it's kind of in the vein of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, in which it's very like gratuitous by Paul Thomas Anderson. It's just like there is no one holding him back from doing every single thing he wants to do.
Gotcha. The Power of the Dog.
Yes.
And West Side Story.
Okay. There was apparently some, spoiler alert, but apparently there was some talk about the fact that Dune was nominated for Best Picture, but Denis Villeneuve was not nominated for directing.
Yeah, that when did that happen? What was that with?
It happens every year because
Argo? Is that one of the ones?
I'm not sure, but they bumped up Best Picture to 10 candidates, but Best Director is 5. So it inevitably happens multiple times. It is tough to delineate. Like some movies, you can probably delineate it some, but in others, it's like, how do you separate the director from the movie itself?
Yeah, that's a little odd. All right, we've got Best Picture here. We have Belfast, Coda, Don't Look Up, Drive My Car, Dune, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, and West Side Story. That is a long-ass list. Tell you what. Yeah,
because I think they bump it to, it allows 10 now, right? Yeah.
Did they 10. Do that? When did they do that? Was that The Dark Knight?
Yeah, I think it was after that year. So it's been since 2009 or whatever, 2010.
Let's see what else. Any other categories that we want to go into?
I mean, those are the ones that typically you and screenplay, maybe?
Yeah.
Score, sometimes.
Writing and adapted screenplay. I'll take a look. Visual effects, Dune, Free Guy, No Time to Die, Shang-Chi, and Spider-Man No Way Home.
How about music original song, Be Alive from King Richard, Dos Oruguitas from Encanto, Down to Joy from Belfast, No Time to Die from No Time to Die, and Somehow You Do from 4 Good Days, which I have not heard of.
Cool. That was original song, you said, right?
Yes. Adapted screenplay and original screenplay.
Dune is up for original score.
Yeah, well, I would say score. The 2 screenplay categories can be interesting.
Yep. All right, writing adapted screenplay. We've got Coda, Drive My Car, Dune, The Lost Daughter, The Power of the Dog. I really do hope that Dune takes some of these more meaningful ones.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's going to end up winning for like costume design and nothing else.
No, it's not. Something stupid is going to win, like West Side Story, where it's like, it's just old clothes. Like, I don't understand.
Honestly, it's kind of the same thing with like Nightmare Alley, which was also nominated.
I think if you want to give a movie like that production design, sure. Like if you really captured the feeling of the time, but I don't think you get costume.
I mean, it depends if it's a weak class, like, like in this case, like something like Dune, like you look at like the many dresses that Jessica wears in it, you see some of like the outfits that the other major players wear, the armor that the Sardaukar and that the Fremen wear, the cocksock that Oscar.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know how when they'll show you the sketches.
It's just a sketch of Oscar Isaac laying back in a chair with like a very long sock flowing over like his thigh.
Yeah. Writing original screenplay. We've got Belfast, Don't Look Up, King Richard,
No.
Licorice Pizza, and The Worst Person in the World.
I still really want to watch Belfast, and I really want to watch Nightmare Alley, even though I'm not huge on like horror stuff, and I'm not sure if that's horror or thriller. And I mean, there's a handful of these like Best Picture movies that I actively want to see, and a handful of others that I'm willing to watch just for us to speak more like eloquently.
Yeah.
I had not heard of Coda before this week.
Same.
We've already watched Don't Look Up, so that's cool. We've seen Dune, so that's cool. Nightmare Alley, King Richard, Power of the Dog should all be easy enough to watch because they're all on HBO. I'm pretty sure. I'm sure we can find the others as well. So
yeah, it's interesting. Like the list, it seems compelling. Like there's a bunch of stuff on here that I would like to watch, which is good. That's a good start for an Oscar like nominee list. And then even better, I'm sure once I watch some of these, I'll have some opinions on what I want to win.
Every year there's some movie that we watch that like we had like little to no regard for per se. Not saying that we're like disdaining it, but just like wasn't like something like, ooh, I have to see that. And then we ended up like falling in love with it for like was it last year or the year before? I think it was last year. Sound of Metal? I was like, oh yeah, let's watch this. Rhythm Ed, whatever. That was the one I was rooting for the Best Picture and everything. I was like, why? Why is this the movie that I like fell in love with?
The last year that I saw all of the Oscar movies is the year that I found The Name for my son.
And I never even saw that movie. So,
so that's coming up. When is it?
It's usually
March 27th.
Okay, I would say, isn't it usually like early March? But I wouldn't be surprised if it's delayed some.
That's good. End of March gives us some time to get through a bunch of these.
Maybe. I think I'm going to get by the end of this month. I have 3 vacation days to burn by like the end of February. I think I might get up to 3 weeks of vacation after this. So maybe I'll take off for the Monday after Oscars and I'll come down for the Oscars. It'll be the first time in a few years that we've done this.
Yeah, we're going to have to make that happen. I'm looking forward to it. Cool. That's awesome. I'm excited. That's all your news and nuggets for this week. I think it's time for what we're consuming.
Yeah, I think that was probably enough. I tried to keep the news a little light because I feel like we're going to have a lot on consumption. Let's jump in first with consumption stuff. I hope this will be something we do in the next couple of weeks. I figured it'd be palatable to you because it's on HBO. I was surprised. I was expecting to see it nominated for at least one of the major categories, but this weekend I watched The Last Duel, which was a total flop at the box office, which, again, at this time, it's hard to really read into those things. Released fully during the pandemic. It did not release with, I don't think it released with a streaming like side. It might have released on HBO alongside of it. I'm not 100% sure because it wasn't one that I was like looking forward to when it came out. I remember seeing some promotional material, but it wasn't one that I was super familiar with until like it was coming out.
Right.
I had heard mixed things after it released. I heard that it, like I said, flopped at the box office. But then I started to hear some critical acclaim for it. And so I watched the movie. I read a little into the background of it. Actually, I had heard more about the background of it before I read it, or before I watched it. And it's, I don't know how loosely, but it's based on a true story from like 900 years ago. During medieval times, and I guess France, when they were, I think, controlled by the British monarchy at that time. It's based on a book, ostensibly a nonfiction book, I guess, but a book. The movie was co-written by Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, and then they brought on another woman whose name I'm forgetting now, wasn't a name I recognized, to help them finish the script. And so it becomes kind of readily apparent that there's 3 portions to this movie, and there's 3 co-writers to this movie.
Interesting.
And so I will give you kind of the pitch for the movie because everyone kind of should be aware of like what the gist of the movie is now. So Matt Damon,
Nicole Holofcener.
Well, the other thing is I didn't know how to pronounce it, but it wasn't a name I was familiar with. So Matt Damon plays a lesser lord or whatever, or son of a lord. And
you son of a lord.
Well, because there's a whole big deal about him inheriting a title of his father's. So, and Adam Driver plays a kind of a lowly squire who's now on the fringe of becoming knighted himself, and he's in service.
Von Liechtenstein.
Exactly, and he's in service of Matt Damon, and that's how the movie starts. And the two of them had diverging paths from early on in the movie as Matt Damon settles into what is to be kind of his life, and Adam Driver, who comes from very humble means, finds favor with the big lord above both of them in that region that they live in.
The Overlord.
France. The Overlord, yeah. Well, the whole point is at the beginning of the movie, you find out that there's a new king on the throne and there's a new lord who's in charge. So both of them have recently ascended to their respective thrones.
Okay.
And Adam Driver finds favor with this lord who's played by Ben Affleck. And Matt Damon is kind of scorned by this lord. And so he gets raised up to a level equal to, if not possibly exceeding Matt Damon's, despite the fact that he's squired for Matt Damon. So there becomes this professional rivalry.
Ooh.
And eventually, there's an accusation by Matt Damon's wife that Adam Driver's character raped her.
Accuse.
And so the three parts of the movie are told from Matt Damon's perspective, before and after the rape accusation. Then they rewind to Adam Driver's perspective of everything that's gone on. And they start at the same exact point. The movie starts with them. Well, there's a kind of a cold open, and then in earnest, chronologically, the movie starts with them going into this major battle in which they both are on very good terms still at this point.
Okay.
And their paths diverge from immediately after the battle, basically. And so Adam Driver's story starts there as well. You see his perspective, and it runs up to slightly past where Matt Damon's perspective ended. But you see some scenes in Matt Damon's story that you don't see in Adam Driver's, and vice versa. But you see a lot of overlapping scenes, and you see how the telling of each of them is slightly different.
I dig that.
And you're not 100% sure until like the end of Adam Driver's story which one of them is quote unquote telling the truth, because a lot of it is from a certain point of view.
Yeah.
And then the third part of the story is told by Damon's wife in the movie about how she perceived this rivalry unfolding between the two of them. And of course, the movie ends in quote unquote the last duel. And I haven't checked into,
said it.
Yeah, I haven't checked into the history of this specific part of it, but I'm assuming this is more or less correct. It's funny because there's a scene with the king who's quite young about, I thought dueling was outlawed, and one of his advisors says, well, no one has had an officially sanctioned duel in some years, since before you were born, in fact, but technically it's not outlawed, so if you grant your approval, it's something that we can have happen.
Gotcha. And
I won't give away like my score for what the movie will be. Like I said, I hope we can do it in the next couple of weeks, because I found it to be kind of a fascinating movie.
Well, based on your breakdown, I am interested in watching it, whereas before I just didn't care.
Yeah, sure. And I kind of felt that way for a while as well, and I've been hearing a little bit of this and that, and I was like, whether I like it or not, it seems like an interesting way to do a movie, and that's why I ultimately watched it.
I like an interesting mechanic for sure.
It's not even just a he said, she said. It's a he said, she said, he said.
Is there I think I might want to know this going in. Is there a clear unraveling of the story by the end, or is it kind of up to the viewer?
As far as whether or not he raped her?
Yeah, I guess.
Well, I won't say whether or not he did, but two of the three accounts
line up. Interesting. Okay. Cool.
And I'm just going to go ahead and say that based on the way it's presented, it feels like, as far as we can tell from something that happened 900 years ago, that whether or not it happened, I think the viewer will be satisfied as to
as
them.
The jury will be able to come to a verdict.
Yes.
Got it.
But the point is that this is kind of Game of Thrones style, like the way that things really were back then. They decide that let God decide. And that means whoever wins the duel is proven factually correct in court.
Sure.
Whether or not it happened, whoever wins is proved factually correct in court, because God wouldn't allow a lie to stand.
Sure.
Sure. And this was written... this was not written. This was directed by Ridley Scott, who in recent years hasn't really had a lot of hits, but has had some incredible movies in the past. And
Naturally.
what I will say from this that I will give away unquestionably, unequivocally, he still knows how to direct riveting, like medieval ancient style battle scenes.
Yeah.
Revolting often, but riveting. And I think it's the type of movie that's worth a watch, whether you like it or not.
Oh, my gentle Jesus. All right, so I just quickly want to go to his credits for director. He has 57 listed credits for director, and when I expanded the list,
he's old. He's directed a lot of things.
But when I expanded the list, the first thing that was listed was Gladiator 2 announced.
No.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I had heard about this. You're right. No, yeah, that's a thing.
Queen and Country, Untitled Alien prequel.
Well, he's currently producing a show that's on HBO that I was kind of intrigued by, and then I heard that it might be kind of a backdoor, like, expansion of the Alien universe. It's like, I don't know that I want to see that necessarily.
Yeah, it's a property that I just don't really care about.
It's done. It's done at this point.
Oh, I liked The Martian.
Yes, that was a good movie. It was a legitimately really good movie. I love The Martian.
You know what? I say I'm not interested in an Alien, but I vaguely remember enjoying Prometheus.
It was fine.
That Robin Hood movie's no good.
I didn't see that one.
American Gangster, I think, was good.
That was good. I saw it the one time in theaters. I don't remember a lot of the details.
I don't remember it at all, except for I remember watching it and being like, I really like this movie. Matchstick Men?
I never saw that one. That was Nicolas Cage?
And
John Cusack.
Rockwell, right?
Sam Rockwell?
Sam Rockwell?
Why do I think John Cusack was in that?
Maybe he is? He's not.
Okay. But it was definitely Nicolas Cage, right?
Yeah. That's for sure. Oh, right. And there's Blade Runner, which I'm still not really a fan of. Cool. Sweet. All right. I'll give that one a go. We'll end up doing that on the show.
Okay.
Sounds good. What are we doing? Oh, that's what we're watching. You watched that.
I did watch that this
That
weekend.
wasn't news. That was what we're watching. You'll be happy to know, have picked Scrubs back up.
Nice.
And I'm very much enjoying it. Running through like 3 or 4 episodes relatively quickly. And there's lots of laughs to be had.
Where are you at, roughly?
Somewhere in the 4th season.
Okay. What was the last one that you just watched?
Cox had a vasectomy, reverse vasectomy, and then had it again.
It's a good episode. It's a really good episode.
That was the one with Colin Farrell's in it.
Oh, I forgot that's the same episode. Where he plays the Irish guy who beats up the guy in the bar and he brings him to the hospital because it was a debt of honor.
In there is that JD and Turk turn him in, and then everybody in the hospital is really pissed because because
all the girls are swooning over him.
And Todd.
Yes.
And Todd has a great line. He goes, "Hey, hot's hot. I don't care about gender."
Yeah.
I love it.
Todd ahead of his time, I guess.
I love it. He's so he's such a terribly awesome character.
He's the Todd.
They did the not too many episodes before this was, what was your best moment as a doctor?
Mm-hmm.
And
Clip
Todd's
show, right?
Todd's stories when they lose the guy on the table and he's like, hold up his hand. And he gives him
he high fives him back to life.
And Kelso's like, and Cox are like sitting behind them at a different table, and they're like, it is just insane, like how bad you are at this, or like you don't know anything about the human body or anatomy. It's just so it's very clever. It's a lot of fun. You know what I like about it? It's so ridiculous and so funny, but they keep so true to the characters, like at their core. Like they're very flawed in different ways, and
yet they still over 8 seasons grow.
Yeah,
slow,
but I think maybe that's what's good about it, right? Is that growth is really slow.
It literally takes all of them 8 seasons.
Yeah, it's great. I'm really enjoying it. So that's one of mine. What else you got? What are you watching?
Let's go with a show, I guess, to match that energy. I have caught up with, well, at this point now, I didn't see this week's, but I've caught up with the first, I think, 4 or 5 episodes of The Righteous Gemstones. And that's been good to get back into that world. It's always like trying to dip your toe into like cold water and like get your body acclimated, because it's such a rough watch at times in like just how fraught it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean that as it's like a criticism. It's just it can be a tough watch because it's just so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But it's so funny too that it's like you eventually get over that system shock of the temperature.
I feel like that's just Danny McBride all the time.
Yeah, he's incredibly coarse. Like he's actively seeking your discomfort.
Yeah.
In a comedic way most of the time. It's a really, really good, solid, funny show. And also it should not go unnoticed that where things have really started to pick up in this most recent episode that I've seen, one episode behind the current airing schedule, is the one where Walton Goggins finally has shown back up this season as Baby Billy, John Goodman's brother-in-law. And he's just he so thoroughly epitomizes everything that like McBride's so like seeking to achieve. There's the weirdest, randomest, most unexpected, perfect duo. They were so great together in Vice Principals. He's not in this show as much as he was in that show, but he's just perfect as being the Goggins-esque character in this show. And they had kind of added the Eric Andre's in the show. I know I mentioned that like the first time we talked about it a few weeks ago. And he's interesting. He's still kind of in it lightly. The best, I think, new inclusion overall to this season's story has been the John Goodman keeps calling them the Muscle Boys for whatever reason. Adam Devine's character has started up this because the whole thing is it's this family of like televangelist preachers, and Adam Devine is the youth pastor of the family because he's the youngest. And this season he's hired acquired this following of incredibly jacked Christian gentlemen. And they kind of live by the precepts of Jesus, including living outdoors and like wearing like robes and tunics and all that. But all of their stuff is based on like physical fitness. It's so uncomfortable. It's incredibly homoerotic. Yeah. Everything about his storyline basically has been that.
Yeah.
And
I got that from like the few episodes I did watch.
Yeah, John Goodman keeps calling them the Muscle Boys, and it keeps causing this friction because he's like, they're men! They're my muscle men! And all of it is so uncomfortable and hysterical.
I like that.
And also, weirdly, Eric Roberts has joined this season as a old friend from John Goodman's past, who he doesn't like to talk about too much. And it's created an interesting dynamic between the two of them, giving Goodman a lot more screen time than he had, especially early on in the last season. So,
gotcha.
I've been enjoying it, definitely.
Cool.
As uncomfortable as it makes me.
I watched Encanto.
Okay.
Really enjoyed it.
I've heard good things. I don't know that I'm going to get to that one, but
yeah, it was pretty good. I will say, like, rough. It's a bumpy start to. They kind of just dive right into what's going on, and like there's like an insane amount of upfront exposition in rapid fire song that is like, what? Wait, hang on, what? what's the story? How did we get here? Where we're starting? And luckily enough, I mean, it is an animated movie. It is meant for children. They do bring you back in the loop. They didn't really need to do all of that up front. It ends up just being, it's just like, sit down and enjoy the song. Don't think too much about it for now. We'll get back to this. It's like, it'll all fill in over time. It's like, and it did. And it was a lot of fun. Some of the songs are really, really entertaining and definitely stick in your head. It's not my favorite, but it was, it's Disney. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good. What else you watching?
I watched the first episode. I don't know how many episodes have released. I don't know if it's the whole season or if they're doing it weekly, but the new show Reacher on Amazon. I watched the first episode with my dad. He has read some of the books. I don't think he's read the whole series. Is that Lee Child, I think, who writes those? It's the Jack Reacher series of books. They've done, I think, 2 movies with Tom Cruise as the lead, which my dad and many people scoff at because he's known as a mountain of a man in the books, and Tom Cruise is like 5'4". That being said, I know my dad enjoyed the first of the 2 movies. I don't know if he ever saw the second one or not. I know he scoffs at Cruise being in the role because the guy's supposed to be like 6'5".
Gotcha.
But overall, I think he liked the tone of the movie and some of what Cruise did as like the character himself. So this new show on Amazon is supposed to be, I think, hewing a little closer to the subject matter itself, not just like the spirit of it.
Okay.
Because I think the first season is supposed to be loosely based on one specific book. It's
okay.
like Killing Floor, I think, which is definitely I had heard of before that specific book.
Mm-hmm.
And the new version of Reacher is played by Alan Ritchson, who's most famously known for his role as Thad Castle in Blue Mountain State. He was one of the leads on that show. That show was on Spike like 10, 12 years ago, something like that. And eventually I think it moved to Netflix. They did a Netflix movie some years after the show ended. It was like 3 or 4 seasons. It was a good show. It does not age well. It was really funny. It's super raunchy. It does not hold up to the standards of a lot of the ways that we want to talk and treat about people in the present day. But there's a lot of funny stuff if you can get past that. And he plays a ridiculous character in that show. He is one of the consistently funny characters in that show, despite how terrible he is as a person and a character overall. And he's doing a little different thing. I won't say he's any sort of great actor because he's not, but at least physically he embodies the Reacher character because he's probably like 6'3" or something like that and like crazy jacked. So
Cool.
The only other thing I'm aware of him in that you might remember was because you watched all of New Girl, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember the episode?
I know it's micropenis.
Yeah, when Justice guy with the micropenis, that's him. I guess you must have looked it up.
I looked him up. I saw his face. I was like, oh my god! And he played such a douche.
Yes,
and it's like it's because of my micropenis. No,
you're just
very clear. I'm breaking up with you because you're a douche.
But the first episode, I thought he showed a little bit more range than what he had ever shown in the past. Not to say that it was any sort of like award-winning performance, because it's definitely not. And it sounded like to my dad it tracked. From what little I know of the character, I thought it tracked. I know I've read Alan Sepinwall's review, and apparently he's a huge fan of the books, and he seemed unimpressed with the character's take so far. But my knowledge of like the bullet points of what the character is supposed to be about, it seemed like he embodied it in the first episode, but we'll see where it goes. Because I'll probably watch it with my dad, so I don't know how fast we'll get through the show.
Cool. He also played Raphael in the newer Ninja Turtles movies.
I did know that, but had forgotten because I never actually saw the movies.
Right on. The only other thing that I have on my list, I'm pretty sure we watched together. So do you have anything other than that?
Yeah, I have a very, very short Shutdown Fullcast update for this week.
What you got?
They arrested the boats.
Thank God. I was on the edge of my seat.
It was a good episode this week. It was a little shorter than it's been for the last several weeks. There's been a couple other things that aren't worth getting into.
They arrested the boats.
But the final part of that story is the boats have been arrested.
Fantastic.
I have another very short note, just something to reference. It's not something new that I'm watching, but this weekend I was alone for Saturday night, and I had an urge, and it was only like 8 o'clock when I fired it up, and I watched the extended Fellowship of the Ring.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It just felt right. It felt right to do.
Cool. Yeah, and I had watched that not that long ago.
Okay. I forgot. Did you mention? I know we talked several months ago about you feeling like you might finally be ready to dip your toes back in that water. But did that happen during the hiatus? Maybe you didn't tell me that you did it?
I think it did happen during the hiatus.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was like maybe the week. It might have been the week leading up to. Maybe that's what put Kim in labor. It's like this will be less painful for her. I think that's.
Wow.
No, she didn't.
Oh, wait, so you watched it with her?
She fell asleep.
Okay. Had she watched them before?
No, she hasn't seen them.
Did you watch
she didn't seem
extended?
to be disliking. Obviously we were watching the extended version. She didn't seem to dislike it. It was just she has a hard enough time staying awake for a movie as it is.
Let alone one that's nearly 4 hours. I get it.
Exactly.
How was your experience diving back in?
It was good. I was mostly just completely captivated by watching that movie in 4K on an LG OLED. It was just bonkers.
Exactly the same situation. Well, sorry, Samsung, but regardless, exactly the same situation I was in. It's great to watch it in that form.
That, and I guess like over time, my sound system has like really calibrated nicely down to here, and like everything, like it was just it like I was like, do I prefer watching movies here to the theater? Like, everything was like perfect.
There's some great bass in that score, so
Yeah. But yeah, I'm looking forward to moving on to the next one.
okay, me too. I don't know when that'll happen. It might be next week. It might be a month from now. Who's to say?
Who knows? Who can say? Who can say? Cool. Murderville?
I watched the first 2 episodes 2 nights ago.
I watched the whole thing.
Okay. Well, the idea was I was supposed to watch with Gianna, and she has just been not tractable the last several days, and I was like, I have to at least start watching it before we do the show. Yeah. So me and my mom watched it, and we watched the first 2 episodes.
So you got Conan and
Marshawn Lynch.
That was pretty funny. I will say, temper your expectations a bit if you haven't already. I think the show is entertaining. It's got fun. A lot of good laughs, but it's
not great. It's fun.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's fine for what it is. I did surprisingly. Oh my god! Why can't I remember who else was in it?
Ken Jeong.
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy.
Yep.
Sharon Stone.
Surprisingly, like, I had no expectations going in. I couldn't even place her. I was like, I know her name.
Yeah.
And I don't know what she's in. And I can't say that I've seen her in anything.
Catwoman.
What? Did you say Catwoman?
She was in the Catwoman movie with Halle Berry.
I didn't see that, so I can't say I've seen her in anything.
I did. It's so goddamn awful.
I'm pretty sure that was one of Jesse's bad movie nights.
Basic Instinct?
See, I knew about the whole thing with her.
That's her most famous role.
Right, but I didn't see the movie.
Okay.
That episode may be the best one.
Really?
Like, it becomes very clear that, like, one of these people that we have on as a guest is serious about being an actor. And, like,
I mean, listen, of all the people, she's by far the most accomplished actor.
Yeah. And like, really gets into it, like, gives Will Arnett a run for his money.
Who's the last person, the 6th person? We named 5 of them.
Wait, Ken Jeong,
Sharon Stone, Annie Murphy, Conan, Marshawn. There's one more, and I'm drawing up. Oh, Kumail.
That one was funny too. I think that he may have gotten Will Arnett to break the most.
Okay.
Which was there, because there's a handful of things that he does that are particularly outlandish.
I was gonna say, of the first 2, I think that Marshawn's episode was the most funny from start to finish.
Yes.
But I think I might have laughed the hardest at Conan's conversation with the little girl at the magic show. When he's explaining death to her.
Yep. That was pretty good. And that's the thing, like, there's a lot of funny stuff to be had. I will say, one of the I like the shtick that at the end they have to say who the murderer was, yes, and then they have to explain their reasoning.
Yes.
In one of them, not going to give it away, but in one of them, the explanation is given. I saw this clue, that clue, and the other clue, and, like, the chief comes in and it's like, you are absolutely correct. Even if some of the things that you said were completely made up.
Well, it's great because they evaluate, like, what they did and why they were right or wrong. Right. I've seen that in the first 2. One of them gets it right, one of them gets it wrong, and I won't say who's who. But I didn't expect that. I knew the whole thing was that the guest was supposed to guess who it was. Mm-hmm. I didn't think they were going to give it so specifically in a way that you actually, as a viewer, could. Because, you know, a lot of times in those, like, cop shows, like, you're just guessing based on some little thing. And then they start, like, revealing all this evidence that they, like, never actually told you or showed you directly. Like, they might be like, oh, we're going to analyze this for fingerprints. And then they just, at the time they were arresting the person, like, the fingerprints match this person. It's like, well, like, how is this? I can't figure that out because you didn't show me. In this case, I didn't expect that in the first one. And then when they showed the recap at the end of the first one, I was like, oh shit, I actually could have figured that out if I was paying attention.
Same. So I
figured out the second one because once I figured out from the first one that you could actually follow it, I figured out the second one.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that because, like, I was in the same boat as you, and once I realized that we're doing this, that's what the show became for me. It's like, I'm gonna have some laughs along the way, but I'm figuring each of these out. Yeah, and I got them all until the end. But I was just like, it was a couple of them are maybe a little too obvious. Like, you only have to, like, be barely paying attention to get them.
The first one surprised me just because I didn't realize that they like, because it ended up being such an obscure detail that absolutely was there and presented in both like the initial crime scene and when the witnesses were. But like, I was like, wow, that's really how it's gonna be.
When he kept putting hot sauce on the sloppy what is it? Sloppy jalapeno?
Oh my god, yeah, the sloppy jalapeno, whatever it was. I was dying laughing every time Conan would try and talk to the waitress. Will Arnett just keeps pouring more hot sauce on Conan's food.
But like, good on him. Like, he was eating it. Like, he was legit going for it.
You can see he was in it was like watching Hot Ones. He was in physical discomfort.
Yeah.
And unlike Hot Ones, like there's no compulsion for him to keep eating the food, and he keeps eating.
But he does
the
it
food.
anyway. Yeah.
Also, there's some really random, like secondary and tertiary, like comedic actors and actresses in this show so far, because in that scene, the waitress was the girl who played Shanna Mulway-Tweep in Parks and Rec. The first thing I ever saw her was in The Newsroom. She was one of the women. Yes, no, she played one of the women, one of the, like the waitresses who was receiving nudes from Anthony Weiner. In the second one, the three potential murderers.
Not see that one coming.
The three potential murderers are played. They're triplets, identical triplets, played by that guy who's in all of those like comedic movies.
On that guy's face in the Benedicts.
Yes, he played Tevin, whatever it was, which was perfect because I was watching it with my mom, and I said, was it 2 weeks ago maybe that we had watched I Love You, Man?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh mom, she's like, who's that guy? I was like, he was Tevin in I Love You, Man. She goes, the guy with the frosted tips? Like, I was like, yes, exactly. But he was in The League. He was I forget what his character's name was in The League.
He was a sexaholic?
He was a sexaholic who they opened the like the fancy restaurant and winery.
Right.
And he ends up fucking the cheese when he fell off the wagon with his sex addiction. That was, they sold the 3 penis wine, right? At the restaurant. He was also he plays the cop in The Other Guys, who reads through the crime scene report of his Prius after it's defiled by Dirty Mike and the boys. Oh my God. He's telling him everything that happened in the car. He's been in all of those little like stupid comedic roles.
Yeah, he's always got like a bit.
Yeah.
I wanted to see what else he was in.
What's her name? In the first episode, the woman who's the suspect who's running the party, the Mothers Against Magic Association, Mama.
Yeah.
The woman, she was in the show with Annie Murphy. The two of them are like two of the leads.
Right.
Kevin Can Fuck Himself.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny.
I never finished that.
Yeah, I know we had talked about that around the time, like when I had finished watching it or whatever. There's going to be a second season of that, and that'll be the final season.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to you seeing the rest of it so that we can have a couple of goofs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to watch the rest of it. It's just a question of, can I get it done by next week?
We got through it in 2 days. Like, we watched it that night, and then the next night we finished it.
Yeah, Monday I watched 2 episodes, and then last night we were doing a little Halo action.
Nice.
A little more Halo 2. We're about 2/3 of the way through the game. Cool. I noticed something, so we tried to play a little bit more on the remastered edition of it, because some of it is really pretty gorgeous, but I encountered something that was not gorgeous, and that was the prophets have human teeth.
Yeah.
I didn't like that. It made me uncomfortable.
Yeah,
it reminded me of that first.
Myself.
It reminded me of that first imagery that came out of the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, where the teeth were too humanoid.
You know what's funny? You look at those pictures side by side, and it's like, oh my god, how did the first one get as far as it did?
Of what?
The Sonic side by side.
Oh yeah,
but
it's bad.
Yeah. Cool, man. What else are you consuming?
That's all I have, actually.
I dipped my toe into the Guardians of the Galaxy game, and so far, very entertaining.
I've heard really good things about it.
Great dialogue, well structured in delivering it throughout the gameplay.
Okay,
where it's like you can pay attention and have some chuckles while you're playing without like feeling like you have to stop and listen to it because you might trigger the next thing. I feel like I may have cut things off once or twice because I was moving too fast, which bothered me. But all in all, it's been pretty good.
How was the actual gameplay? Because so many of those games, I feel like whenever I see trailers or like clips from it, I'm not intrigued by the gameplay. Is it good?
Yeah, so far so good. I mean, I've only used so far Peter, Drax, not Drax, Peter, Rocket, and Groot, and each of them only has one of their abilities. Like, I guess I don't know how it unlocks. I don't know if it's like a progression thing as you go through the game or whatnot. But it's actually pretty fluid in like pulling up the wheel and being like, Groot, do some crowd control. It's like you like pull up the wheel and then like one of the buttons like you basically tap into a section and then tap in, like you pull up the wheel, tap into the character, and then you could hit one of the same buttons to like pick one of their moves to do. And like you're basically giving a command to them while you're still controlling Peter. So
that's similar to Mass Effect has a light version of that, but Dragon Age has a more expansive version of that. I know there's other games that do that sort of thing.
It felt so intuitive that after getting acquainted with it at first, I was able to be like, okay, like I'm fighting. I want some crowd control. And it was like tap, 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 because I knew exactly what buttons to hit for that one to happen.
Okay.
And I think because there's the way that it's mapped, I think it's easy to memorize. So you could like rapidly do it and like feel like you're not breaking stride in the game.
That's good. I always like when you have like the option of, can I do this super quick and intuitively, or can I stop and really drill down into what I'm going to do to deploy here, depending on whatever like encounter you've come on. And I like when you have a system that's pretty seamless to do it both different ways, where I can really pause and give really explicit commands across the battlefield, or can I hit two buttons and they're going to go off and do their thing and I can focus what I'm doing.
And that's what it does. Like you hold the button and it slows everything down by like 70%.
So it doesn't come to a full stop, because
it doesn't. But what was interesting, that is an option in the difficulty settings. So you could pick one of the difficulty settings in the beginning, but you could then manually tweak parts of it, and you could increase what that does. I didn't check to see how far you can go. You might be able to go full stop with it, but you could tell it how long to.
Because it almost feels like a bit of a cheat code at times in the BioWare games, where you can literally get
pause life
time to pause while you try and figure out exactly, line up perfectly what you want to do.
Yeah.
Is that an Xbox or a PlayStation or both?
I have it on PlayStation, but it's on both.
Okay, I wasn't sure because I know sometimes those games have come out as a console.
I think it's on both. Now you got me second guessing.
That might be one that I would actually be willing to check out, because I've generally heard pretty great things about that game.
Yes, it's on both.
Interesting.
I got it on. I had a gift card, so I picked it up while it was on sale.
Nice,
which is nice. Cool, man. Anything else you're consuming?
I don't think so. I think that was all the major stuff.
How are you feeling? We're at an hour and 40 minutes. Do you want to go fun and games? Do you want to dive into the movie?
I feel like our movie talk's not going to be super long for this one. I have a movie ready to go.
All right. Well, if you have it, we might as well give it a go.
Okay.
I was going to just say, is it my turn? But obviously, based on that conversation, it is my turn.
I was 99% sure that it was my turn to pick a movie.
Okay. Ready?
Yes.
Would you call this movie an ensemble movie? Out of the gate. Off to a great start.
This one is actually tough in a way that most of the movies we've done, I would say no.
Okay.
But I will say there's a bunch of people in this movie, but I wouldn't call it an ensemble movie.
Okay. I feel like that's good, because like I feel like we're on like slightly different sides of this one, where if you say no, I would probably definitely say no. Whereas if you say yes, I might still say no. You know what I mean? So if you're saying no, then it's probably not.
You'll understand why I had the slightest. I'm going to say no, like pretty confidently, but like there's like a kind of a big roster of characters, but there's really, it focuses on what we have always defined as like the 1 to 3 type of major characters. Is
this movie a sequel, or does it have sequels?
No.
You got a one-off. Is it? I realized, I think in the past, like the way that we phrase this, we probably could have just changed it up. Is it an original screenplay based on our Oscars talk versus trying to like? Is it based on a blah blah blah? No, it's an original screenplay.
It's an original screenplay.
Cool. Is it or was it an Oscars contender?
Let me just verify. Okay. It was nominated for Oscars, but you got to define for me what the threshold of Oscar nominee that you're willing to go with.
Did we discuss one of the categories that we covered?
We did.
Okay, well, thank you for answering it that way, because it's probably music then.
I cannot say without you further asking.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say it was nominated for more than one Oscar. I won't say how many.
Okay.
And I will give you this one last thing.
Mm-hmm.
One of the more than one was for one of the major Oscar categories.
Okay.
But depending on how you define that,
that's fine.
I don't know that it's necessarily going to be helpful to you.
It showed up in Oscar season. It's fine. Like, I feel like that's good enough. Even if it was like a lower one that we don't really consider.
And also, I will further say it was only nominated. It didn't win any Oscars.
Okay. Cool. We have an original non-ensemble Oscar nominee worthy, and that's all the information I have right now.
Wait, wasn't there?
Right?
Was that it? It was only 3? I thought it was 4. Sorry, you said
I don't remember.
Oscar nominee ensemble.
Oh, one off.
Yes, one off. That's it.
Okay. And did the movie come out in the last 10 years?
No, that's 5.
Last 20 years?
No.
Okay. Is there some war in this movie?
No.
Damn. Did it take place, was it contemporary with the time it was released?
No.
Okay. Interesting. Great. Now I feel like, did it take place in the past?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we've got an original movie from the past up for Oscars. No war. Non-ensemble. No sequels. Did it come out in the last 30 years?
No.
Jesus.
That was 10.
All right. Man. It takes place in the past.
Yes.
Are we talking medieval times?
No. It was a weirdly specific question. I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing. I was surprised.
Sure.
Considering how many times we go down similar paths to try and winnow out swaths of the thing, I was curious to see a new question enter the fold.
Does it take place in America?
Yes.
Is it Western?
Yes.
Okay. I don't really know many Westerns. I know of them.
It's interesting also that you kind of like, because it could have been like, well, I guess you asked about war, so I guess it wouldn't have been a Revolutionary War, but it could have been, the Scarlet Letter or whatever. Yeah.
Is this like a John Wayne movie?
No.
Clint Eastwood?
No. That's 15.
I'm really don't know a lot of Western movies.
Okay.
Val Kilmer in this movie?
No.
Damn.
I was 16.
I'm struggling big time, specifically because we are in a genre that I'm just not familiar with.
I didn't consider your familiarity with the genre before I picked the movie. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You
want to ask about like Charles Bronson or James Coburn or any other Western stars?
You know what? The reason I was asking specific names is
listen. A huge swath of those movies are covered by John Wayne and Clint Eastwood. There's no question about those. That was a good way to.
I thought there were some that I could have at least guessed.
Yeah. No.
Right?
No. Those were especially like John Wayne. Like that. Those are great questions. I'm more twisting the knife when I'm making jokes about Bronson and Coburn.
Was this movie rebooted?
No.
Damn. I guess that probably would have. I feel like you would have had a harder time with the sequel question if that were the case.
No, because it's not a sequel; it's a reboot. Say The Magnificent Seven, which was rebooted,
Sure.
starring James Coburn and Charles Bronson in the original one. That was rebooted, but it's not either one of those. I'll say that because it hasn't been rebooted.
I'm trying to think if I would have seen if there's one that like, I mean, if it was up for Oscars.
There was a lot of Western movies that have been up for Oscars. I'll just say that. It's a lot of super famous Oscar movies, Western movies.
Yeah. I guess this is a silly throwaway one because I don't know what to. Would I like? Is it very likely that I know the name of this movie? Like that?
Yes. Like I said, there's a lot of super famous Western movies. You have one question and one guess. I'd also be really curious to see what level of the audience has gotten this or has any chance of getting it based on the questions you've asked. At this point, it's...
It sounds like I've ruled out a lot of Westerns.
A lot of them.
Yeah, that's great. Stupid ones keep coming into my head, but I'm pretty sure that they're names I recognize, but I feel like of Westerns, but I feel like they've already been ruled out by the actor questions I've asked.
Okay.
Is this movie known to have influenced The Mandalorian?
I would be very surprised if that was the case. I'm going to say no. To go further, to rule one very specific movie out, I saw a lot of references to Rio Bravo in this last episode. I didn't see it. I'm not an expert on it. I'm saying in reviews of this week's episode, I saw a lot of references to Rio Bravo. That's not the answer.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, that was the point I was making is, now that I've answered that question, I can feel safe in saying that I saw a lot of references. I know I've seen that movie, but they all blur together to me at a certain point. So you're up to a guess here.
I can't even pull a name.
Pick a name, any name.
How many years did I go back and say?
You went up to 30. Which actually does make it tougher for you, because if it had been in recent years, it would have been less likely to be an Eastwood or Wayne one. There's a bunch of movies you could have chosen from, but not like an obscene amount of movies to choose from.
What was that movie? Oh, shit. Hang on.
I'm sitting here. I got all the time in the world.
Was that a Western? Oh, man. I've got the name of a movie on the tip of my tongue, and I'm going to be embarrassed because I don't even know if it's a Western.
Okay.
I'm also curious if what the hell is the one? Now I can't think of what the name of this movie is.
Well, it doesn't count as a guess until you actually get to it. So describe it. See if you're talking it out helps you get to the name of the movie.
It's like a...
I mostly just don't want to leave the audience with silence, but sometimes I find talking it out helps.
Yeah, the silence gets clipped automatically anyway.
Okay.
Which is nice. Hang on. I'm close. What is the name? Is Dances with Wolves?
Okay. Is that your guess?
Yeah. Is that a Western?
It is a Western. It's not the answer.
All right.
You're going to be so mad when I tell you what the answer is.
What is it?
It's Blazing Saddles.
Wow, it's a comedy.
You never even went down the comedy rabbit hole.
I didn't. That's... Really? Oh, what was it up for?
Actually, what's her name was nominated for supporting actress.
Madeline Kahn?
Madeline Kahn was nominated for supporting actress.
Wow.
Best film editing and also best music original song for Blazing Saddles.
He rode a blazing saddle.
But I would have really kind of
shining star.
I would have said no if it was just song and editing, but her supporting actress,
that's good. That's good.
A major role.
It didn't even cross my mind. I got so...
Well, I was surprised about the Oscar thing. I had no idea she was nominated. I think that's hilarious that she was nominated because she is great. I just wouldn't have thought that she would have been...
I would say ultimately that question definitely is what steered me in the more dramatic.
Sure.
And
I felt bad that you asked it, honestly, because I was like, fuck, I didn't even consider that this could have possibly been nominated for Oscars other than like stupid like costume design or something like that.
That's funny.
I thought you would.
Pretty funny.
I thought there was a decent chance you might get this one if you got on the right bent. When you got to Western pretty early, I was like, oh shit, he might get this one.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of an obscure as far as like genre type of stuff, but like also like very present for us because I know you love the movie. I love the movie.
But you know what's funny is just before I asked, is it a Western? I almost asked, is it a drama? And I thought I was going to be wasting a question because we had talked about the Oscar thing. So that really would have... Then again, if I had asked that, I don't know if I would have circled back to Western.
Probably not, right?
Yeah. There are lots of dead ends.
And also you can understand, like, I mean, I would say that Cleavon Little and Gene Wilder are the leads of this movie, but you could kind of sort of make an argument for Harvey Korman and Mel Brooks and Madeline Kahn and Alex Karras.
I wouldn't say. I'm with you on
okay. So I'm glad that we're of the same mind of that, where you didn't feel led astray. Whereas
not at all.
Like they are kind of like an ensemble and like a traveling like company type of way, but like in this movie, it's really the two of them are the leads. And like if you want to make an argument of the third lead being Harvey Korman, fine, but like it's really the two of them.
Whip, whip, stir.
Whip, whip, stir.
Oh man, with that, let us get into our flick of the week. Nobody, released in 2021, rated R, with an hour and 32-minute runtime. Your IMDb synopsis. A docile family man slowly reveals his true character after his house gets burgled by two petty thieves, which coincidentally leads him into a bloody war with a Russian crime boss. Great synopsis.
Yeah,
exactly what happens. Al, why don't you give me your hot take?
Sure, let me just bring up my notes. Part Taken, part John Wick, part slapstick dark comedy. This movie is fun. Where else can you see old-ass Christopher Lloyd shotgunning henchmen? 7.5 out of 10.
What's it called? It's funny. I made some jokes to you like beforehand about my rating. It wasn't my legitimate one. It was like the more in the moment take. But my hot take: Vince Gilligan presents John Wick 4: Home Alone.
Yeah. Okay.
8
out of 10.
8 out of 10. Kitty cat bracelets.
I forgot to add a thing to the score. Yeah, no, it's funny because while I was watching the end of that movie, for sure, I was like, man, this is what a kid who grew up watching Home Alone would make a movie about.
I mean,
this is adult Home Alone. It's
I would
like
have been totally on board if it was like, we find out that his actual name is Kevin McAllister, and like this is just
that was his name before he went into witness protection. Or
what was he? What was his job again? Was it an adjuster? What they call him?
Was it an adjuster or an auditor? I forget.
Auditor.
I think it was auditor.
And it got me thinking. I was like, man, like you can draw a line through like all of these movies that this is like cheekily referencing, like The Accountant. And like and Home Alone and John Wick, like and Taken, all of them. It's just like, but like it does it in such a way that it's like I don't understand why, but it feels original.
Yeah, even though it's kind of a Frankenstein's monster of so many other different things, the finished product feels not quite like any other one specific thing I've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what's crazy too? Bob Odenkirk pulling off like tough guy, like.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw the trailer for this movie, I was like, no.
Yeah.
Like, Liam Neeson's, like, old, but he's huge. And, like, Keanu Reeves, we know, has extensive martial arts training. And, like, yeah, even though he's a little bit past his prime, he can do the moves in a, like, believable fashion. Bob Odenkirk's, like, 5'5" and 135 pounds and 55 and just had a heart attack.
Yeah.
I don't buy him beating the shit out of a series of henchmen, let alone any one person.
But
somehow they managed to
pull it off. And he does look pretty fit in the movie.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't look like De Niro in The Irishman, where it's like that's clearly an 80-year-old's body.
You're right. Right.
I mean, I'm sure it was great editing and stunt work, but still.
Yeah. I love the concept of like, so he's gotten himself into this mundane routine. That opening, like the movie is very artsy.
You know, I forgot that it's also one part Shaun of the Dead.
I was gonna say one part Baby Driver because there was a couple
both Edgar Wright movies.
Yeah, that's
because I was thinking specifically the mundanity of his routine.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah, it was almost like taken right out of the like scene for scene.
Yeah, it reminded me of like Simon Pegg like preparing for his day in Shaun of the Dead, where he's like blearily walking to a dead end job.
Right. I like the idea that like the character subconsciously he's over it, but like what he's portraying on the surface, like throughout it, is that he's actually happy with this because it's that bit of stability, and like he's kind of gotten out of that life.
Well, it's the part of he's so over the professional part of his life, but he's willing to put up with it because he's so happy with the personal part of his life until we find there's even a crack or two there, and that's as much as the on-screen stuff that tips off why he needs to break out of this mold. We can see that that's really the match is lit by some of the stuff in his personal life, a la, you know, the literal wall between him and his wife when they're in bed.
Yeah.
And some of the faux like family interaction where like it feels so light and fake.
Mm-hmm.
Did you, we were talking about Scrubs earlier. Did you see, because you're in the 4th season, the 3rd season ends with JD trying to get Elliot and then breaking her heart, right?
I think so. That sounds familiar. We picked it back up in the 4th season, so there was like a...
Did you get to the part where the two of them decide to become friends again, but they become friends by being the most fake and on the surface friends possible? They don't talk about anything real.
I think so. I feel like that already happened.
Okay, because for a while after that happens at the end of the 3rd season, the two of them really butt heads for a while they're both going for the same residency director.
Yes,
job.
right now they're co-residents, though.
Okay, so you haven't gotten to the point where I'm talking about yet, because they have to break down that part where they're no longer actively sabotaging and fighting each other.
They're not right now.
Okay. But there was a handful of episodes where they're really butting heads, and they start to... But I think... So maybe it's maybe it might be the beginning of the 5th season then, where the two of them like bury the hatchet and they become friends again, but it's so like cotton candy, bubblegum pop, like bullshit friendship.
Gotcha.
And eventually they call themselves and each other out on it. It's like, we haven't had a real conversation in like 3 years. We all act like we're best friends, but we don't talk about anything. It's just the most cursory and trivial and surface level friendship. This is like shitty for both of us.
And that's him and his
family. That's him and his wife, and he realizes, no. Like, him and his family in general, I guess, but like specifically his wife, because like they all seem happy-ish, and it's like they've had happiness, and they could still have it. This isn't like a lost, broken marriage, but it's heading that way if something doesn't change.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the match that sparks him getting into an actual altercation that affects his professional life, that obviously affects his personal life as well.
Yeah. I do love the way that it all unfolds, because like you're saying, like the cracks are showing. He's looking at that point, he is now looking actively for like the thing that's going to let him go into it. Right. And then sure enough, like, whether it be like divine intervention or not, like they break into his house. There's this, he lets the mugger go, and the son thinks he's a little bitch because of it and how it all goes down. But because you've seen the trailers, that's not the case. And you're just like, how is it going to play out? I love the idea that that's all in like the first act of the movie, which is just the thing that leads into what ends up being the actual main part of the movie, which is completely avoidable.
Yes. Yeah, it's almost like the most extensive prologue that's ever existed.
Right, because like ultimately, like the first act, like it wraps up, it's got actually a pretty strong beginning, middle, and end. Like it's almost like the character's like, I have set, like I'm in this life because I want it. It's like something about, I feel like I'm being pulled back to that old life, gets a taste of it, almost goes too far, realizes, you know what, maybe I am good. But that's not where his character goes. His character is like, I still want somebody to try and hit me.
Yeah, well, because I think eventually, right, he realizes, why can't I have my cake and eat it too? Now, we flirt with, well, there's a downside. There's why you can't have your cake and eat it too. Like, because your family and your house and your livelihood end up at a risk. The funny thing is, this movie doesn't actually in any way, shape, or form interrogate what those consequences look like.
Yeah.
Because in the end, he gets everything he wants and he wins and everyone walks away okay. Like, sure, there's a bullet wound here and there, but everyone's alive.
Yeah.
And he's, I guess, got a new business because he bought it with his gold bricks.
I think ultimately he doesn't need the business.
Sure, but they end up buying a new house that's nicer than the house they were in.
Oh, but I assume that's from... I think it's more about his stash that he still has, like, some. I don't think he gave them all of it.
Sure, right. But that tends to run out eventually. Sure. So, like, he's got to have some way to continue to make money at some point.
I was curious by the end, like, jumping to the very end and the phone call that he got, like, is he going back to his life?
Yeah, I mean, I guess he's probably gone back to an adjuster or auditor or whatever of some point. My point is, like, if this was a Spider-Man movie, right, like, the kids die or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't in this. Not that I'm advocating on behalf of the death of minors, but, like...
No, I kind of like that, right? Like, it was almost refreshing. It's like, I feel like everything needs to make a statement and everything needs to be dark today, whereas, like, this is, like, it's not a light topic, but we're going to have fun with it all the way through. Ultimately, there's no repercussions for his actions.
Which is crazy, because, like, if you take, like, a Taken, like, you gotta imagine, like, yeah, sure, he gets home and, like, the wife and the daughter are okay, and that's fine. I've never actually seen all of the second and third one. I'm pretty sure the wife dies in the third one. But you have to imagine his daughter's got some sort of PTSD after that, right? Mm-hmm. Also her friend died.
Yeah.
So, like, there were repercussions and, like, consequences in whatever shape or form. John Wick, his dog gets executed.
Right.
Like, this is real, harsh, brutal consequences, and we have to deal with those things. And, like, yeah, he gets revenge, but it brings it back and perpetuates a cycle of revenge. And, like, so this is obviously, like, aimed at more comedy.
Yeah.
And so you have to expect that there's going to be a more happy ending. But, like, I guess I'm a little surprised. Like, take something like the movie Red.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, we have fun, it's tongue-in-cheek, there's some darkness, but people die. At the end of the first one, spoiler alert, Morgan Freeman is no longer among the living in the movie. Like, there is a consequence, even if they all end up going to have some more fun on the next adventure after that, right? Like, there was some stakes. This one ultimately had no stakes. Like, everything came out aces.
Right. Which is funny that you say that, because, like, in my mind, there was no shot that his brother was making it out alive. Like, it was clearly going to be, like, in the end, we're going to wrap this up, but ultimately it'll be an eye for an eye type of thing. Like, a bad guy's brother died, your brother's going to die. And then, like...
But
then it got to... Then when Christopher... Like, I fully expected his brother to show up, but when Christopher Lloyd kicks the door open, I'm like, okay.
Well, because, like, it would have been kind of, I guess, to a certain extent, perfect, right, if Christopher Lloyd sacrificed himself for his two sons.
Absolutely.
To live on and win the day. Also, could you pick two less likely brothers than Bob Odenkirk and RZA?
No. I love it, though. I absolutely love it.
It's not an objection or criticism. Because I didn't recognize the voice, and when he shows up, I was just like, what?
Well, the only reason I knew it, I've gotten into the habit of paying, like, real close attention to opening credits these days.
Was there opening credits in this one?
Yeah. There has to be.
I actually don't think I paid attention to that. I'm going to give full disclosure. I fell asleep about halfway through this movie. Woke up the next morning and put the second half of the movie back on and watched it.
Yeah.
So I saw the whole movie, retained all of the information more or less at that point. But, like, was exhausted, watched it Friday night after work. Fell, like, hard asleep after he gets thrown in the trunk.
Okay. He opens... First off, he checks to see, okay, can I get out of the trunk? No, we're moving a little too fast. So my solution is to wreck the vehicle so that it comes to a stop and then also, I can get out of the car.
I have a question, and maybe because you own a Tesla, you're a special case from everyone else, but do most cars come with a standard fire extinguisher in the trunk? Because he pulled that out of, like, where...
As
like,
if he knew...
Yeah, he pulled that out of, like, you know, where every car has a compartment where, like, the jack is, so you can change a tire.
Yeah.
Every car comes standard with a spare tire and a jack. Not every car comes standard with a fire extinguisher.
Yeah.
He reached into the fire extinguisher compartment. He reached into that area with confidence, knowing that a fire extinguisher was
definitely made me go, has that been in all of my cars?
No, it hasn't, and that's what I'm saying. Maybe a Tesla's different because so many of them have caught fire, but like most cars don't come with fire extinguishers.
No, and maybe it's just a known thing with that type of vehicle.
Cadillacs?
No, I don't know. Maybe they have it. Was it a Cadillac or
wasn't it?
I don't know. It may have been. Let's see if we can get to the bottom of this. Do Cadillacs have
fire extinguishers?
Do Cadillacs have fire extinguishers?
I think it was a Cadillac CTS, but I'm not 100% sure.
Where do you guys think the best place to mount a fire extinguisher? What? Does every car have a fire extinguisher? Every motor vehicle or combination of vehicles, except those otherwise specified below, shall be equipped with one fully charged fire extinguisher having at least a 4BC rating. What?
No, that's a lie.
What is this?
Where is that, in Denmark?
Cal Code Reds.
Okay, maybe in California, but I've owned 3 different cars in the state of New York. None of them have come with a fire extinguisher.
I really think this is funny. So if this is a law in California, I feel like people in California watched the movie and didn't bat an eye. Whereas we're like, what in the hell?
And I'm not saying they shouldn't come with it. They probably should.
I'm just saying that I've owned a fire extinguisher that also causes cancer.
Well,
known.
I'm just saying whether or not I think that we should have one in our car, and I think we should. None of my cars has come with a complimentary fire extinguisher.
I'm really fascinated by this. Does it say? Wow. All right. Cool. Cal Code Regs Tit 13 Sig 1242.
Tit 13, really?
Tit 13. Fire extinguishers.
Oh my god.
That's amazing.
I totally forgot to add this into the news and notes thing. Adidas put out a tweet today with just a bunch of tits in it.
Oh.
It was to promote a new line of sports bras. But these weren't tits in sports bras. They were just straight up honest to God tits.
Fascinating.
The point of it was that we make a bra for women of all shapes and sizes, which is a fantastic message.
Right.
I didn't think you could
not
do that
proven by the pictures that you posted.
I didn't think you could do that on Twitter anymore because like 5 years ago, Twitter and all the social media companies went on like a massive crackdown of like basically all nudity.
Huh.
Like being like publicly displayed. And
I'm tits. I'm Ron Burgundy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had forgotten to mention this before, and I would have continued to forget it if you hadn't said Tit 13, and it reminded me, oh my god, like 6 hours ago, I just stumbled, retweeted onto my timeline a tweet from the Adidas main Twitter account, verified, of just a bunch of torsos of women with their tits exposed. And I was like, what?
Fascinating.
Yeah, it was fascinating because it was presented in like a totally non-sexual way, in a totally anatomical way, and I was like, what is happening? It's why are Adidas' tits on my timeline?
That's great. Circling back to fire extinguishers in the car, one of the things that it's funny, we were confused by 2 very different things in that scene. Mm-hmm. You were confused by the fact that there was a fire extinguisher in the car.
And that he seemed to know it was there.
I was confused by the fact that I'm pretty sure in the next scene, he folds the car seat down where somebody is sitting. And
yes, he manages to unfold the middle seat cutout of a car, which many cars have.
Yeah.
Especially sedans. But there's a person sitting in front of it.
Right. And he folds that person in half.
Listen, I am incredibly strong for the average person, and I couldn't do what he did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I weigh literally twice as much as Bob Odenkirk. I'm not even exaggerating. That's in no way hyperbolic. Within a margin of error of about 5%, I am literally twice the size of Bob Odenkirk. And I couldn't do what he did from that position in that way.
I also like that as writers, they realize that we gotta pepper in some backstory. We're gonna have to do some exposition, but let's do it in a comical way of like start telling the story, and then the character you're telling it to dies of boredom.
Well,
and a car seat in its middle.
Also, in that scene, because I can't let this go because I just remembered it now as we're talking about this scene. Loved it. It was incredibly inventive. His deployment of the fire extinguisher. Right,
Tit 13.
It's great. Of the Tit 13. issued.
The TIT 13 device.
Computer, please activate the TIT 13 device. For a movie that we were just kind of lauding the editing of earlier with the montage of his mundane daily routine, and there's some other scenes that are edited quite well and directed quite well, choreographed quite well. That crash scene, they crash into a light post. They cut. They come back, and the car is just like flipping down the road.
Yeah.
It's one of the most objectively hilariously shot and edited scenes ever. What happens prior to the cut and what happens after the cut are in no way, shape, or form connected by any form of physics.
So
even in moviedom, that makes any sense.
I completely agree.
It looks like, you know what? The best parallel I can think of it for, just for like sheer absurdity, it's when in Anchorman, when Jack Black grabs a real life dog and he has punted a stuffed animal.
Yep.
That's what the best analog to the scene.
That's fair. I will say though, there is something interesting about it in the context of the rest of the movie, in that it starts off relatively grounded, and from that moment on, it gets more and more absurd.
Yeah, they took a dial that's at 0, and they slowly turn it to 11 over the course of the movie.
But they do it. I mean, and I think they do it like very fluidly. And it's just like, okay, it's time to one up the previous scene, and they keep doing that throughout. And I believe that was very intentional.
Sure, at least I hope it was, because it's a car that's driving, hits a pole, comes to a stop, cut. When they come out of the cut, there is no motion on screen and nothing is happening. It's clearly post crash, and now the car is doing cartwheels down the street.
Yeah,
like I don't understand what's going on.
I just like to think about it though, like in the context of everything else, like that happens, the way that it's breaking down, and he like you're going, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Surely, the Home Alone trap house is going to be the end all be all of this ridiculousness that we're doing. And then he runs at a guy with a bulletproof piece of glass and a claymore mine.
I feel like a movie titled Home Alone Trap House would be wildly different than what you're describing. that phrase
13.
that phrase you just uttered is not exactly. I don't think that means what you think it does.
To 13s and cocksocks.
This episode has been wild.
But circling back for a moment, Christopher Lloyd absolutely Uncle Festering it when he has the sawed-off shotgun under his blanket and he has this ridiculous grin on his face while he kills the 2 people in his room.
Fantastic. Also, a clear shot-for-shot ripoff of Morgan Freeman killing the guy in Red when he's in the nursing home.
Sure. I love it. I absolutely love it. I like when they at the end, after they've gone, they're out of ammo, and I'm going to say Bob because I can't remember his name in the movie. Hutch goes, "Are you out?" And his brother's like, "Yeah, I'm out." And they look to his dad. He's like, "Yeah," and he like shows that he has a shotgun that holds 2 bullets. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm out."
Also, didn't he have multiple shotguns?
I think he had 2.
It was at least 2,
right? Yeah,
if not 3.
I don't know, but he was having a grand old time. I also the choice to go slow mo and bring the music up. That's like the very Edgar Wrighty Baby Driver stuff that I was talking about. Like when we do it in the bus, it was great, and then when we revisit it in the Free Fire moment. It's also pretty great.
The Free Fire. I actually did think of Free Fire during that whole fight scene.
It's added to the list of things that this movie is.
Yes. We're now up to about 6 different movies.
Yeah.
Also, I gotta say, it was incredibly inventive using like the bulletproof glass.
Yeah.
In the finale, along with the Chekhov's Claymore mine. Yeah. Which we needed to see go off at some point.
That was awesome too. Like, and it explodes in such spectacular fashion.
Honestly, I can't believe I'm saying this for a movie that did so many things up to 11. They undersold the devastation a Claymore mine would do on a person from 5 feet away. I don't think it would be recognizable as a human torso.
Sure.
If it had gone off from that point, I think it would have been literally turned into eviscerated mincemeat.
Yeah, I think you might be right on that one.
They use those things like outside of like embassies and bases. They're meant to like take out like 20 people.
Everything.
He used it on one person from like 5 feet away. That person shouldn't exist from the waist up.
Yeah. I will say that moment when the psycho Russian guy is singing and they pan down and you see Bob Odenkirk sitting there eating his steak dinner.
That was pretty good.
Oh, what a shot.
Also, to rip off another Edgar Wright scene, it reminded me of something from Scott Pilgrim. I'm thinking of the first Evil X that he fights when they're having the concert and Matthew Patel shows up.
So sad.
When he's trying to come to terms with the whole Evil X thing because he only skimmed the email, and both of them turn to look up at Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and the camera zooms in, and the whole room is dark, and they put the spotlight over her. Like, it reminds me exactly of this scene where it's like he's sitting there watching this song, everything stops, and it just zooms in and focuses on him sitting there, which is great in like the macro, but also reminds me of, again, like that sort of thing. I really did enjoy that. Like the balls of him sitting there for that is pretty unfathomable, but it leads to a great scene ultimately.
Yeah. And then only to be like topped by like when he moves the napkin over and he's got the claymore on the table.
To rip off another movie was big Dark Knight vibes. Let's not blow things out of proportion.
You think you could just take all of our money?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's so matter of fact.
Oh man.
But I really enjoyed his montage, like intercut with like the Russian boss like singing. It was him knocking down the thing with, was it the Obdoc or whatever it was?
Yeah.
The that he's like knocking down that whole like establishment. It like intercut with the mob boss singing, and he's like just taking down all these guys, and he's blowing everything up, and he does the whole thing with him pouring the fuel into the fire. It was a really clever way to
I loved that.
Probably a little overly dramatic, but pretty great. Pouring that into the emergency like fire like system and then lighting it on fire.
Yeah.
And him dropping the one salvaged, scorched bunch of $100 bills to drop on the table in that whole scene was like a great mic drop moment.
Absolutely. And then just to mirror the sequence in the beginning when he's on the bus, I like that he's in the car and his fingers are crossed and he's like, come on. Like, I really, really want you to come after me. I really need to take you to Home Alone Dropouts.
It's the name of my rap group. It's great too because like any other human in that situation would be praying that they don't follow him, and he's clearly praying that they do. And also, when he's walking across the like he's holding the Claymore Mine, and no one can shoot him because it's mutually assured destruction, right? Mm-hmm. And then he walks out the front door, turns around, walks across a very long, wide intersection, and it's like at any point one of them could just shoot you in the back,
right?
And you have no recourse at this point. Please don't do that.
Yeah. That's just I feel like a typical thing that happens if you look too far into it.
No, but then they follow it up by they immediately follow him out the building and try to hunt him down. Like if they had just done it and he gets out and he escapes and leaves, it's kind of a whatever. But they follow it up with like what would the logical conclusion be? And it's like he's now so far away from them that the Claymore Mine can't really hurt them. Probably.
Yeah. So it's funny, like for something like that to happen because I feel like there's also moments of really just key attention to detail in the movie, mainly. And I don't know if Kim and I are looking into some houses right now, so like I don't know if this stuff, if like paying attention to this stuff is just top of mind. But like early on in the movie, I was like, that's a weird spot for a fuse box, and I was like that. I mean, I was like, oh, maybe the upstairs is an extension. The upstairs and attic were like an addition to this house, and like that's The
There are
wiring
houses. There are houses that have it like that, but it's not super common.
and it was clearly it's not really a fuse box. It was specifically the box for his underground bunker.
Well, there's that too.
And I was the fact that he ends up going to that door and opening it just to prove a point. I was like, wow, that was really there on purpose. I was like, well done. And then when how ridiculous was the scene where he has all of the bodies in the basement and he's talking to them? Again, another exposition scene where he has to give you, we need a little bit more of his story, so we're going to do it in a comical way.
It was a good scene, especially with the one henchman like dying throughout the course of it.
Again, bored to death. That's what it seems like, similar to the last story. Also,
one of the short story longs.
Yep.
But I appreciated that little bit of exposition backstory there.
Me too.
Not all exposition is bad. No. You need some exposition in a movie, and if it's done well, it's fantastic. I mean, half of Inception is exposition, and it's fascinating, right? It's riveting.
But this takes it to a different level where it's like, we don't really want to do this part, so we're going to do it quick, and we're going to do it in a fun way.
Yeah. Also, I do have one gripe with this scene, though, because I'm pretty sure that's not how records work. They don't create fires.
It's a trick record.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh.
He makes a comment that the basement is designed to burn at a certain temperature, and then he grabs a specific record to put on to trick that, like to trip it.
Was that what? I feel like that was probably too subtle.
Yeah, that's how I understood it.
He says a line about how the basement's rated to handle whatever temperature, and that this
basement is designed to burn at twice that. Is what he says. And then he takes out his white phosphorus record.
Well, that was the thing, is I didn't get the subtlety of here's my trick record that's going to create a nuclear firestorm. Like I understood the whole point of what he was mentioning about like hiding the evidence and how this was designed to do that. Like I got all of that. I was confused by the specifics of a record creating a fire in that way.
Gotcha. Also,
please promise me not to move any further south. I can't do it.
Can't make any promises. But when he goes outside and all of the neighbors are seeing are coming out of their house to see what's going on, and he's just like standing in the middle of the street. I'm like, he's got to go take that car, right? That was the only reason to bring this up in the beginning of the movie.
Sure, but also, why would you punch out the window and hotwire it? Like, keep that car. It's yours now. You've claimed it.
Yeah. I mean, I think he knew he was getting himself into. He knew that car was getting destroyed.
You've claimed the iron price here. You paid the iron price. Like, the car is yours. Is he going to stop you? No. Also, if you're going to burn down your own house in what surely was an insurance play, you want to stand in the middle of the street and let all your neighbors see you, or do you want to just jet out of there? Plausible deniability.
Oh, is that, you thought it was an insurance thing?
No, but surely him buying that building, that's part of how he buys the new house. That's definitely an insurance play. He creates the Home Alone trap house, kills everyone.
Uh-huh.
That building is no longer fit for use in a commercial sense.
Oh, I see.
That's an insurance play.
Okay, gotcha.
He's gonna liquidate that, get the insurance claim on the property, and have enough money to do whatever he wants.
Now all I can think about is the beginning of the movie when he's in the interrogation room and he's slowly takes out the can and then opens the can and then slowly takes out the cat from his jacket. I'm like, what is this movie? What is this movie?
Also, it felt very in keeping with what Saul Goodman would have done.
Yeah.
Like buying the trap house and using it for an insurance play.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's very Saul Goodman. Oh, one last thing from the basement. When he sees the cat bracelet and he goes, little devil.
Also great because the whole entire movie would have not happened if they found the bracelet in the basement where it was.
Right. Which I love. What else we got? I feel like there was something else I was going to bring up, but I can't remember. Oh, the only thing that I feel like we haven't really touched on was the thing that actually that sends him into this spiral with the Russians is the sequence where he fights them on the bus, which I kind of dug that he's not like flawless at this. And I thought that
he's rusty.
I think that was pretty cool though. But like, he's so like driven. So like, he's like really getting his ass handed to him. Like, I mean, he's got like a knife in his side at one point, but he still like powers through. And like when he,
how does he continue on in the ways that he does?
I don't know, but I love him getting kicked out the window and then limping back over to the front door and then prying the door open to get back on the bus. I don't know why, but it made me laugh so much. I had a lot of fun with this one.
Also, another random note, it was great because I was watching this movie with my family, and we're watching, and the guy who owns the company he works for.
Yeah, Michael Ironside.
What?
Michael Ironside.
I recognize the name now, but I didn't recognize him at first. My dad's like, "Oh, do you know who that guy is?" I was like, "No." And he goes, "Total Recall," and I was like, "The henchman guy who's working for Cohagen?" It's like, "Oh my god!"
In a very cliche, it looks like henchman guy ate henchman guy.
Yeah. Well, it was weird because he's like crazy bald and has a mustache in this, whereas he was clean shaven and had a full head of hair in Total Recall 30 years ago.
Oh man. The henchman guy?
It was the eyes.
That's great.
It's the eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. All in all, very entertaining watch.
Oh, I definitely had fun, despite my like weird like absurdities and gripes, and some of my gripes can clearly be hand waved away by the fact that this is absurd. I have one last slight little gripe to end on here.
What's that?
Connie Nielsen. Connie Nielsen.
Mm-hmm.
Why did they bother casting her in this? They didn't let her do anything.
That's his way?
Yes. I'm not blaming her. I'm saying like why bother casting a fairly famous actress and let her do precisely nothing in this movie?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not really sure how that type of thing happens. Yeah, she barely has any lines.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like they underutilized her talents. Like, why not just pick someone lesser known to be in this role?
Maybe is it like I wonder if it's like people, maybe they're friends. Like, I don't know. Like, you know how like sometimes like people like just like work.
Sure, together? I was surprised. I was like, oh, Connie Nielsen, like she does nothing in this movie. I was like, oh, okay. Like, I mean, I don't know. It's like she's the greatest actress in the world, but like we were talking about Gladiator earlier. She's pretty good in that, and she's given like a fair bit more to do in that movie. And
you know what I thought was interesting about their relationship is that it's clear to me fairly early on, like that she knows about the man he was, but I like that we just don't know to the extent.
Does she? Because she seems wildly out of her depth when it all comes to light.
Well, that's the thing. She doesn't know the length and like how far it goes, but she like you know, she's patched him up before, and like there's been like from like it's like just like old times, right? And like she stands by his side, and like he says, you know, I need you to go take the kids, do this thing like last time, and like she's like on board with like
that was the scene that actually resonated with me more, where he's like, I owe you a full explanation, but it's not going to happen now. And she's like, all right, fine, take care of it. And it's like, that scene made me feel much more like she didn't know what was going on.
Oh, to me, that scene made it seem like that there wasn't really a time before where like she was, it was enough information that he was able to give her in the past that like she didn't need more explanation and understood that like he couldn't really talk about it. Whereas this one like directly involved them. So he's like, I will tell you about it this time, but just not now. But I don't know. I thought that was kind of cool. Anything else on this one?
I really enjoyed that they circled back and gave another scene of the mafia boss singing. And that whole thing where it's like, oh, it's a little soft, and he just kills the shit out of someone to prove that it's not soft. And I can go sing karaoke whenever the fuck I want.
Right.
Because I'll fuck you and everyone else up.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, fair enough.
He's like, also, I'm crazy. And the audience needs to know I'm crazy.
Yeah.
It's really... We knew he was crazy when he got out of the car and walked across the street, grabbed a drink, and then snorted some cocaine all before going on stage, all before going into his business meeting.
Most gratuitous use of a oneer that I've seen so far. Did that need to be a one shot?
Nah.
Did it? I mean, it was. Like,
I don't think so.
Ultimately, like there was a moment or two in there where it's kind of cool to be like following him going. This was like, did that really need to be a continuous shot?
But that goes to say like. I had brought up at the beginning, but like there are some pretty stylish things that they do throughout the movie.
That being one of them.
Yeah, for sure.
That scene is kind of really confusing, actually.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, if you've gotten this far, I would imagine you've seen Nobody. But if not, it's still worth watching. Very entertaining. It's really all in the execution.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's a fun. It's a short watch. It's a short watch. It's on HBO.
Well, that is all for this week's episode of Flix and a Six. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you have a movie for us to review or nuggets for us to discuss, you can send those requests to flixandasix@thespintune.com. Tune in next week for more movie and beer goodness. Until then, I'm Anthony Costanzo.
I'm Al Bielsi.
Thanks for coming out. A Bobus. Feed your fed.
Is it not just full-blown Mando watch at this point?
I think it's Mando watch. That's fair.
Although
this one was definitely had a lot more Boba though.
Well, I was gonna say, to be fair, this kind of brought it back to basically 50-50 compared to the last 2 weeks where it was like
these are 2 Mandalorian episodes in this Book of Boba Fett.
Going back to the point of my objection is not so much to the season or the show itself, but really honestly to the name, which is the least important of the things. It's like, why name it that if you're doing this? Mm-hmm. Like, you could have, there are so many off the cuff, we came up with some shitty names that would have been better suited to what's going on, but like they were shitty names.
Yeah.
Like, there is a real name that you could have done. It could have been Boba and fucking Mando for all I care. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's, you know, the Mandalorians, or although the way I just said that just always reminds me of that Family Guy cutaway of the communists. Do you remember that one? It's the communists.
Yep.
You know, quit Stalin and show your father your marks.
Yeah. Naming aside, the episode was, this was a blast.
Yeah, I saw some people kind of complain about it. And if you want to talk about like the art form of television, like, yeah, this isn't an Emmy-worthy episode. But you know what this was? This was when you were 8 years old and you had a bunch of Star Wars toys and you had fun playing with them. That's what this was.
That is exactly what this was, and that's why I enjoyed it so much.
It's not just pew-pew. It's, I have Chrysanthemum over here, and I have some Pikes over there, and I have Din and Boba over here, and here comes the Rancor, and here's the Mega Super Extra Battle Droids, and we're going to have them all fight out and pitch combat in this open like map here that we're going to do a fight in, and it's going to be fun. And that's what they did. They had fun.
They did have fun. I had fun.
You can argue good, bad, whatever. Yeah. But you can't argue fun.
No, absolutely not.
In my opinion.
I love it. I really did enjoy it. I think that it was pretty cool. Like, definitely the whole like Western standoff stuff was great. I like the way that they played that out. The movie, like this episode, like, had so many different movie things going for it. Like, there was the Western aspect, there was like the mafia movie aspect, then there was Godzilla, and then King Kong.
I was not expecting a third act pivot to Godzilla.
Right. That was ridiculous. I was like, oh, we're having a 2 giant monster fight. This is ridiculous.
Because the funny thing was, I fully expected the Rancor to be a part of the endgame in some way.
Sure.
But
we knew that, like, we were like, oh, I can't, from the second episode, it was like, I can't wait for him to ride the Rancor.
Sure, but somehow that being like 5 weeks ago also feels like 5 years ago.
Sure.
And so by the time he's like, I'm just going to go get reinforcements, it's like, well, who else am I missing here? I assumed at that moment, I was like, well, we've gotten the point of the betrayal from the Pikes that they killed the Tuskens, and I still kept wondering whether the Tuskens would show up in this fight in some way, shape, or form. And then when he shows up, well, what happened was you hear like the thud and everyone's looking around and they're like, oh yeah, the Rancor. That's right.
It's funny that, like, we're on 2 different sides of it, where like the entire season, even though it's only been 7 episodes, I've been waiting for the moment. So I was like, when he's like, I'll be right back, I was like, oh yes, you will. I was so pumped. Seeing that claw come over the building wall.
Yeah. That
was awesome. And I mean, granted, Boba was a tremendously easy target on the back of that thing. Very slow moving.
Continued to be fascinated by, like, especially when Cad Bane does the flamethrower to like shake him off of the Rancor. I'm like, at what point am I going to stop getting mad in this episode? Because we're up to about like the 8th time where I've gotten mad in this episode. That you guys keep forgetting you have fucking jetpacks.
Yeah.
You can't get shaken off of the top of the Rancor because when you fall off of the Rancor that's 20 feet up in the air, use the jetpack. Right. There's so many times where the two of them were like bunkered up there and they're waiting to get like slaughtered. And I'm like, guys, you may lose this fight, but you do remember that on your side, you both have jetpacks. Right. And then eventually they break them out. It's like, okay, great. They use them some. It's good. And then they start running down the street, getting chased by overpowered, over-shielded droids. And it's like, remember those jetpacks you used 5 minutes ago? Mm-hmm. And then like later on, it's like, I got to go do something. And someone runs down the street and I'm like, but you have a jetpack though.
Yeah.
And every time they forgot to use a jetpack, I got very mad. And I'm not saying it's a cure-all. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be consequences to it, right? Like, honestly, none of them get shot when they first use them and all the pikes are in the street. It's like, someone probably should have, like, at least winged you off of, like, your shoulder. And it's covered in Beskar and you're going to be fine, but, like, no one hits you while you're up in the air and, like, you're worried about it looking overpowered. No, people can still shoot things that are in the air.
Yeah.
You can use the jetpacks, and I understand you're not going to use them 100% of the fight. That's fine. There's a couple of times in this scene, in this episode where I'm like, you have a jetpack. Use the jetpack.
It's that type of thing can get annoying for sure. There was a lot of great, like even so though, like in the fight sequences, like there was a lot of great use of the tools that they have. That I thought was really funny. I was like, oh, knee missile. That was cool. I was like, did I see that right? And then sure enough, he does it again. I was like, oh, I did. I saw it right. He's got another one.
Yeah, the Boba knee / hip / whatever like missile was pretty great. Getting them to see them use all their toys in this was fun. A lot of fun. That goes back to my point of like, this is like you being 8 years old and playing with a bunch of like Star Wars action figures. Like we got flamethrowers and missiles and the whistling bird or whatever the fuck it was called. All that was a lot of fun and great like use. And it's like, oh yeah, this is what two like ruthless Mandalorian-esque characters in Mandalorian like armor looks like when they're fighting a bunch of henchmen.
Right.
Like, two of us are going to exterminate 30 henchmen. And like, yeah, we're going to get dinged a couple of times, but like, we're going to crush these guys. That's what those characters should be doing.
Yeah. The mayor's whatever, his guy that he has
Major Domo. That was what he's officially credited in the cast.
Major Domo.
He says Major Domo. Yeah, I mean that's usually like that's a name for like an aide. Or
okay, he absolutely was stealing the show this episode.
He almost always does when he's in anything. He's great as fucking Andrew in Veep, and he's playing the same character except with Twi'lek.
Yeah, yeah. But I was saying like he's been in episodes before, and he's been like there and kind of annoying, but not in a terrible way. But for whatever reason, this time around, they really leaned into the character, like, and he was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, using the most obvious way at the beginning, where it's like he gives him the tablet. It's like, okay, so he's gonna end up reading something terrible and objectionable to the Pikes, and it's gonna be a distraction, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
But the way he does it with all that flourish.
Nothing. Oh boy.
I promise this is not my words. Seeing the weirdly burgeoning relationship between him and Pelly was kind of hysterical, where she's like, oh, hey there, like cutie, like come with me. It's like there's gonna be, we already know she's dated a Jawa. There's something happening there. She's into aliens, and that's great for her. Mm-hmm. She's consistently great always.
Yeah. When
given C material, she provides B+ content. And she was given a little bit more to do in this season than last season, but there was some stuff that's like really bad.
Funny though. It's just like so funny.
It's just Amy Sedaris being fantastic as always. She was so freaking good in BoJack Horseman as Princess Carolyn, but I really like her in this role. She seems to enjoy it well enough, otherwise she wouldn't keep coming back. Right.
I liked it when the X-Wing comes up. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, what are we like? How's this going to play out? And like, because like obviously you notice R2-D2, and like it's not just a X-Wing. It is what I think is safe to call the X-Wing. It's Luke's X-Wing.
Well, it's great because like it's a great fake out too, because we've already seen earlier in the season that there's X-Wings patrolling around Tatooine from the Republic, and she thinks it's essentially Republic, like military police or whatever.
Mm-hmm. But then when it lands and you can't identify that somebody's in the. I was like, oh my god, this is so good. I was like, he's in there. And then, sure enough, Grogu's little head poking out over the side, and her being so excited to see him again was an absolute treat.
And also, she's like, "Oh, that's so cute. They taught you how to fly." And one of the droids beeps at her, and she goes, "Obviously, I know the astromech flew the X-wing."
And then when she sees his little chainmail, she's like, "Oh, you're fancy."
Ooh, shiny. Yes. I was kind of expecting him to wear the chainmail outside of the tunic or whatever cassock, I guess, that he's wearing. Yeah. He's kind of monk-like in what he's wearing.
Yeah.
But also, I guess it doesn't allow for the reveal where Din realizes that he's wearing his gift underneath it. But
it to you.
Functionally, I would have thought it would have made more sense to wear that outside of the clothes.
Sure, I just figured it looked a little bit more form-fitting than...
Yeah, I guess that's true, too. I just thought it would kind of work with the way that, like, medieval, like, soldiers would wear chainmail over, like, some sort of padded whatever underneath. That's not really an objection. That was just what I was anticipating, and I was kind of vaguely surprised. But then it was also allows for the Frodo-esque mithril shirt reveal of, oh, he's got that underneath there.
I did love how we got an entire episode where we saw a lot of Grogu being tossed around by Luke and like learning to jump, also that we can get to this scene where he gets to jump hug Mando.
Yeah, where he just throws himself
there were so many too cute moments.
Dude, how am I almost kind of sort of tearing up where he's like using the Force to calm the Rancor, and then he's just petting him.
But then he snuggled him.
And well, yeah, he gets tired and he snuggles him too.
He pushed up against, like, it was adorable.
The almost waterworks starts with him calming him and then just gently petting the Rancor as the Rancor like snores.
And you're a horse.
And he's petting him, and it's adorable. Yeah, and then he gets tired, and he lays down, and he's snuggling up against him, and like that, we've seen that now a couple of times. But like, just him sitting there and petting him was so great. Yeah. I don't know why. Why do I? Whenever the Rancor got shot or like gashed, I'm like, no.
Yeah, I know.
I shouldn't feel those things for Rancor. No. I shouldn't, and I do.
Yeah,
it's weird.
And also, I feel like this was like the first time we really got the real close up of his face. Like there was like a real tight shot.
Well, with lighting, because we got a tight shot of his face in the darkness when he's first delivered to Boba.
Oh, man. So cute.
I gotta be honest. I'm a little disappointed that Cad died that quickly. I would be generally okay with him dying that quickly if he got to be a little cooler in this episode. He got to see him quick draw a couple times and have some good tete-a-tetes, but I would have liked... And we got to see him use a little bit of his gadgetry when he unhorsed Boba from the Rancor, essentially.
Yeah.
And some of that stuff where he defeats Boba temporarily. But it would have been nice to see him a little bit more active, considering that's what the character was. He's a fucking badass, and you get to see him. He developed technologies in the way that the Mandalorians did over thousands of years together. On the course of his own lifetime, he developed his own stratagems and technologies to contend with Jedi. In the Clone Wars show, he was able to stand his own with Jedi and Sith. And I think he even has a couple of kills over the course of his run. Like that rebreather thing that he has on his neck was specifically designed so that he could never be force choked by Sith.
Interesting.
He has the flamethrower the way that Mandalorians did, that was supposed to help them fight Jedi. He doesn't have the Beskar armor, but he always had other gadgets. He had rocket boots that he used in the Clone Wars show that allowed him to match some with the Jedi's like super leaping ability and all that sort of stuff. It would have been nice to see him deploy a little bit more of that in it, even if he ultimately gets defeated by Boba. And thematically, and with all of that, especially when you know like the greater origins of the character and the fact of the unfinished Clone Wars season that never was, Boba ultimately kills Cad in that situation as well. I would have liked to see them flesh out a little bit more of their shared backstory, considering they kind of just dropped that on our laps here, but that's fine. It was cool to see him ultimately defeat Cad with the Tusken weapon as opposed to his own gadgets.
That was a really cool moment, for sure. I dug that. Man, it's just really entertaining. I think you had mentioned it early on in the series, that it did seem like that, like, nothing looked terrible, but there's some clearly, like, it's a lower budget
Yeah.
than Mandalorian was.
And this episode pulled out all the stops.
It did, but even so, there's
a couple of scenes that look cheap, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, it's funny, it's just an interesting concept, like that there's some budget was held back for it.
Yeah. Also, I will say, actually, to their credit, I guess, or maybe this would be considered something of a backhanded compliment, but this is the first episode where I actually had a sense for how big Mos Espa was.
Yeah, that was cool.
Because I kept feeling like it was like 4 square blocks.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, it's a little shanty town with like nicer buildings. And then you see like a shot of like the crater that they're set within. It's like, oh no, this is like a full blown city. It's just never felt like that this whole season because you keep showing me the same 3 streets.
Yeah. That's true. When they did that pan over, it was pretty cool. And then the concept of like those landing ships that we had seen in previous episodes, like being on like top of this canyon, was kind of cool. Like looking down into it, and then the Gamorrean guards obviously falling into it was terrifying. I
felt bad for those guys.
Yeah,
those guys had a rough arc, man, where they get like totally unpants by Boba stealing his ship, but then they get a chance to redeem themselves, and they do kind of redeem themselves. They prove to be loyal and willing and competent, I'll say, henchmen, enforcers, whatever. And they get totally hung out to dry, where like Fennec saves the mods, or as I've always preferred, the street hooligans.
Mm-hmm.
Chrysanthemum bootstraps his own way to survival by fighting insurmountable odds.
Yep.
And the 2 Gamorreans just get pushed off of a cliff.
Yeah.
And it's like, as soon as they're fighting and they like take 2 steps back, it's like, oh, they're going to get driven right up to the edge of the cliffs. And they just, because like in that moment, like Chrysanthemum's like trapped by like 8 Transdosians who've just decided, we're just going to all lay on you at the same time. And that's going to be more than you can handle. It's like, oh, yeah, all right. The math, I guess, kind of checks out.
Him.
It's like the mods are like trapped by, again, like a force 3 times their size. It's like, yeah, fair enough. Like they're pinned down and they're fighting and whatever. And like the Gamorreans like, okay, we're just gonna fight these guys, and we have these like short cleavers, and they have these long spears, and it's like that's just it's a math problem. It ain't gonna work for us. But for a moment there, I was like, they're not gonna kill all of their like foot soldiers and forces and everything, because like all of them look like they're about to die.
Yeah, it was.
And then for the fact that
for sure,
the Chrysanthemum and the mods all survived. Well, most survived. 1 or 2 of the mods got shot and killed, obviously, but like the crew still exists more or less.
Yeah.
And the 2 Gamorreans both getting killed. Like, I guess I kind of would have figured if like 1 died and 1 survived, it would have been like okay. But the fact that the both of them were just like, yeah, we're kind of done with you guys. I was like, oh, they were kind of in the ground floor. Like, I feel bad for them a little bit.
Yeah, it was sad. We did get a good Wilhelm scream.
Yeah, I noted that too. I meant to bring that up. I forgot to write it down, but I was like, oh, we got the return of the Wilhelm scream to Star Wars, finally.
That was strong. And then that, little post-credit tease was cool.
Yeah, I had to rewind it at first because I couldn't tell whose face that was in the back to tank. It's Cobb Vanth.
Yeah.
I did think it was odd. We had said last week that we thought he was still alive.
Mm-hmm.
And they acted like he's dead, but they made sure to never say he was dead.
Right.
Also, it was a weird fake out where he's like, okay, Chrysanthemum, like, your payback is going to be that I'm going to let you use the back to tank as long as you need. And then he says something at the end, and it's like, oh, it's probably just Chrysanthemum.
Right. And then you see him, and you're like,
and then you see Cobb, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, that makes sense. That, like, they kind of did everything in their power to not say he was dead, so the fact that he's not dead shouldn't be that surprising.
Right.
Also, what's his name from a couple of weeks ago? The bassist, whose name I definitely forgot, was getting ready to mod him up.
Yep. I forgot his name too. The Ripper Doc. But lots of fun. I enjoyed it. I had a really good time watching this episode.
Yeah. Getting to see the Rancor really unleash was pretty great. I still wish that the Darksaber would have been more effective. Not like a cheat code, but like, I actually kind of sort of forgot he had it for a second. He breaks it out. I was like, oh yeah, duh, great way. Yeah. And then it never really, like, he kind of sort of gets through the shield the second attempt with it.
Right.
And then he uses it to like,
it cuts through the thing like butter when he's on it, but like, it's like, he should have just done more of that.
Well, yeah, but also my other issue is, and he chopped the one arm of Guns off, and it's like, but then why not chop the other one off too? But that's fine. But
swords heavy.
Yeah, no, but he looks like he's starting to master it though, right? But the other problem is like they made a big deal about showing like the zoom in on their eyes, like the ocular device of the droids, and then when they get stabbed and shot on both of them, nothing happens. It's like, well, don't bother making a big deal of like that's probably the weak spot.
The only time that
they even had
comes into play was when the Rancor like punctures it with his thumb.
Yeah, but even then, it's still alive.
Yeah,
it's still swinging and shooting at him and trying to stab him. It just can't see him. Obviously wasn't important. I was wondering if like that's gonna be the weak point. We shoot it.
I've got 30 years of video games under my belt to know that that's the hot zone that you gotta do.
Yeah. If it's not an insta-kill, it at least does it like massive.
That's the area that you hit where the whole thing lights up red.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was weird to like highlight that up with just both of them looking at it, and then further when like Boba puts his like scanner device on it, like he sees it and is like, oh yeah, that's where we're gonna go. And he launches his missile. Also, where did he get his second missile from? There's another missile.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I was curious, but I thought maybe he picked another one up when he went to get the Rancor.
Yeah, I suppose that was
possible, my guess.
Yeah.
I brushed that one off.
No, it wasn't a big complaint, but I just noticed. Wait, he fired his missile. Right?
Yeah, like for a moment, it felt like a continuity issue, and I thought maybe we were going to see the missile gone again, like in a future scene. But
yeah.
Oh man, well, that was fun. I enjoyed that. I don't know where they go from here, like how it's going to play out. I am curious to find out what their plans are, though.
Where they go next is Kenobi on May 25th. That was announced today.
Oh, cool. And that final scene. No. Okay, one more time. And he.
That was from the first season, right, where they were on the speeder bike, and he like goes nuts when he's on the front of the speeder bike. It was cute to see that. Adorable. Yeah, I was really confused at first when he hands him the thing, and then I realized, it was the knob from the Razor Crest. Like,
that was great. All right. Until next time, Mando watch.
Wait, no. One thing before we end.
What's up?
Because I totally forgot to mention in any way, shape, or form in the episode. They changed the end song to just sing Boba Fett.
Wait.
They haven't been doing that. They were like just doing like a huh type of yell, and whatever. They turned it to Fett.
Oh.
And then you didn't notice in the end credits they were singing Fett, Boba Fett, Boba Fett.
No, I didn't notice.
Fett, Boba Fett. That's the end credit song. That's why I texted you earlier. I said I watched Boba Fett because that was what they were. I was laughing hysterically because it's so cheesy and ridiculous.
I hadn't noticed.
You have to go back and listen to it. It's the same exact song. The chanting and humming is all the same, but instead of the ha and what it's Boba Fett. Boba Fett.
That's pretty cool.
It's fucking ridiculous.
Oh my god. That's great. Fett.